don't the tomato yondu yona, the lake in Deva cheer. Lake in Deva. Tatela Kare Golesena, more mona yabuchi. Namchi, more mona chigurs.
Katu sets are to Yana.
I'm saying and a masin and a console, some like mona chigur.
The top shikari. Segura Sigmar.
Sego Marie.
I got sugar.
There was yours. You know, control test, Mabde, but you know, because the chicks in the road to see.
Has a more on Titi, Casha Chilla Kurgava. Did Casha Chilla Leptic, Mangua Sigmund in a mambo shigido, Sama Shigimendo.
Can't you cook on the Kota?
The teacher the Tamazo Regi or Valemba, Relampachito. The tapshire do consolago, the Relampana, Tamazungra, because I'm going to Shigama Mangua, Mambo Shigido.
Tambo Moran come on a carriage in your tomato, you could change your.
So, the Tamotigura
Tambo Ma, he is at the church. Near Laviat Lavroa, there's the thing to what
so, first of all, you have to make sure that that the house environment is completely clean. Maybe then the ants not attracted. But then also, if that's not the case, if that's not the issue, then maybe there's a karmic connection that you just have with those ants, a karmic relation. And then in either way, in whichever way you deal with the ants, you have to make prayers for them and make dedications for them. So do you know what is do you actually know why they're there, what the issue, the problem, why there's the ants?
Why?
Yeah, why?
I think that they're just all over, underneath the houses and everything in this particular area.
So all the houses have this?
Yeah,
Oh.
it's a common problem.
이 망보드네 소리 드나.
Combo comes this as a dinner.
사처 더 간바 망보여 봐. 동스 동케다 그러 동스. 이 연락 또 장청 보세요서.
알레.
가서 갈래도 디 잠만 준비해서 말이야.
주당 거 사마일단 때스 요나데 거 연구요. 근데 맞아 주소는 삼서 사마들은 토소는 연구도 토마토.
Sometimes like in their center when there's like food lying around, then it attracts the ants. But it's not okay. You deep marvam because 창지 올라서 간바 창말라요 그래.
아, 네.
그래서 창말아 창도 매봐서 뭐라. Oh, the thirsty. 추워서 말아. 저 추통 연구 소리. But it's raining a lot, right? 가시 그 추가 보여라. 그 상처도 오로.
그럼
Say as many as I can and then pray for them all.
딱 톱톱 칠려올라커. 이 말란다 되는 체 못한 체.
다대야나 치. 마셔봐 답이지. 딱 가는 시나 마시나 그런 좀 되와지요. 레긴 되와지. 들어와 뭐나 가되네 아버지.
Yes, you continue to try to save as many as you can, and along with that you can do prayers, dedication prayers for them, and also it is because you have a certain karmic connection. Then clearly, because of this connection, you can especially make aspiration prayers for them. But you can try to kill as little as possible and try to do whatever you have been doing.
Just now, your question in the lunch time?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify whether I heard this right, but this morning you mentioned that in confusion being the path in terms of the Shavaka Buddha's meditative absorption that they're in for thousands or millions of years, and how that it's harder for them to be enlightened than it is for hell beings. There was a comment about that, and I was confused about that because that sounds kind of discouraging. It's awfully hard to get to that point, and it's almost like, wow.
The point of the
Or
Shavaka.
is it just maybe a way to motivate us to have the pure motive of bodhicitta to begin with?
The Nirangula, tarba tobi yore konso samde trulpa res konso lapsa. Teni do chicken lasa teni teni benan taron nyava semchen china taron departure chamber mendo get chamber mendo sangiela inanti get chamber inanti get chamber res konso sade. Teni be chicken ore sam jomia da oro yoro. Tagang saten tinda bot penati anso yakpochi ge chetan nyangde yakpochi ge ba nyangde de. Inanti get chamber ina teni anso kala chigore. Tenganso.
Te tondate hakokure. Tondate kare isena. Nyawana jesona ya ko Jung Rinpoche nyawana nendo rowa. Yena ya nyawana ni ya thane sanje kompa tobyake tabshi rasigiri labor. Ta nyintyuke gopo nyomgyolo nesona hajangi Jung Ring chane. Sanje toya. Nga sanje toya hajangi Jung Ring chane. Teni tesena teni ko sanjo sanje ji kompa toya te yuke chembo chare la. Tondate hakose.
Ore hama khona ke chatin.
Tar de twa de linde hakose.
Len a.
Nge la ya hakose.
Re nga hama khona nge kan ke
Ale
chatin.
das.
So if we're here, it's important to understand the meaning, you know, of like what is meant with that. And so the point is that, you know, even if we are in the lower realms, in the hell realms, for a very long time, then still there is, when that karma comes to an end, then there is still a chance. It's possible, you know, that we will be born somewhere else and we can attain enlightenment gradually. And so there is a possibility. But then when we come to the state of this meditative absorption, which is the cessation of all suffering of the Shravakas and the Pradyakas, in this state, it is an extremely long time, so for an incredibly and almost like incalculable time they dwell within this state, and they cannot come out of this state for a very, very long time. So that is why for this entire time they have no opportunity clearly to attain enlightenment. So this is how the context we should see it.
so poorly and kill if we've supposedly had, I don't know what the criteria is to get a body, but in my beginning path on this, it's hard for me to understand why I would keep incarnating, and if it's due to merit, good merit, why do we come and kill?
So Milarepa kola shirva. Tene tanga so Milarepa chete pe halia gisonam chembo giva mambo top tini tension mambo kom dawe pe kain sina tension mena giva top giva marwa. Tini ti tanga so giva shibotu ta ta wore ro mil topati. Tene nganso yine ta mi mambo tene mil mambo Quran sa dina marwa sonam mambo top giva marwa giva mambo top giva mare. Ta mil mambo Quran so mi patso segido. Teni patso marap chabo chegida milina yangra. Teni patso yeba shira tupki yo marwa hanso mili mangje bara. Mili Rinpoche yena yang hanso mangje ba yeba shira tupki yo mare sunam saga yo marwa. To konso dikpa mambo saga yo. Teni tinde na nguna sena tobela sunam mambo gora. Teni konso ti sunam ki kanga pakcha komshi gora ba. Ti yusa pakcha ti yeba tag yo marwa konso. Kaisena mikeba mambo tupki yo ba. Tini tiga ya poko zomino.
Te mongo zomino la ra.
Ti go zomino kaisena that is culture yore songo de soraba. Ta sena mamba go yore sena tonga yo marwa. Se de kaisena ngoso senam ge komshi go yo sora dela.
Jung go la go ra.
Ta tan ngoso sena mambo sare mi de tho yore ba. Mambo sana jun yore ba. Mambo sana pakcha ro go ba komshi da. Ti ngoso komshi ti yo marwa.
Tate Chutang Ang so Mulut Toyake Sunam te Jun Rinpo Rosuna let lao take Jun net Kable and gosh. Take a Chag Jun, Madeva Tendu, you cigarettes.
Carasana take more.
Pay Yana Tangan Pena Dawahima Naranke Lobjan say and Chiyorova. Dawahima Narank Lobjan say and Chiuna. Tene Te Muntune Lobjan Mazena Dawachik in Juni, something to Jena to us. Take got two days ranks on Dajin and Jena. Kahiena, the Tama Chaway. Kahiena, the Dachik in Huni, Lobjan say and Jute Dawa Yuma, yielding neither. Pete no Chakur. Tara Mulu Tobiate, Jotas unam give lay in Pate, Tajushor. Yinea, Jiwa Humake, Pakchaki Jun the Koranzo, Tatara, Maranzo Lobjun the Jetsun one is in a jet.
Pakchamundo.
Pakchat me Pachano.
Never tried it.
Karisina, Tini Parula Leka Mambo, Chin to Gorva, Leka Mambo Chepalatin Chin to Gor. The name Ta Kahi like Samba the Hingi Jun the dead area. Tisoyang, Tata Huma Chia Huma, Ta Giva Lela, Sapo, Pesamba the Hingi Gom the Nitiso, Tara and Ti Jun the Udepa, the Rio Query. Then the chap to go, Mari.
Comshi Chichon about the Lagate.
Comdi Chechong, the Richagore. Then it gave Huma Sunam the Pe, Matches Ayabachila, Tigun Sunam Saya, Coca Majoma, the Lutima Pogenda. The socket you in Juker. Penna, Naranso, not drips, market trips in an answer, Kupan and a day of sunny. Take it up, Mambo Dumdogorva. To wear. So, Gigi Mambo, the soya.
So it's also not a straightforward answer. It's different in different circumstances and with different minds. For example, just like we are different. For example, if we learned something about a month ago, if we studied something a month ago, then now a month later we might not remember anything of what we have learned, even though we did actually learn that. But then there are some who have a greater capacity to retain that, and then they still can remember whatever they have learned a month ago. So they're depending also on many different conditions. You know, some are able to remember and some are not able to remember. So for some, the imprint is gone quicker, and for some, the imprint remains. Also depending on the strength of habituation at that time. And so also when we obtain a precious human body, it is true that we obtain this precious human body as a result of many virtuous actions and merits that we have accumulated. But then it is not like a straightforward or linear thing in this way, which applies to everyone in exactly the same way, because our conditioning of the mind is so different. And so then it might be for some that they have done a great deal of merit, and then again it was interrupted and they did other things and they forgot about it, just like forgot something we learned. And so then they still have a great deal of merit, but then not this habitual imprint so strong. So then they might have a human body, but not continue to do these positive actions. But then somebody else might have really made an effort to cultivate, maybe in a closer past life, loving kindness and compassion. And then it is more directly carried on into this life. So it remains a habit, like a habitual imprint. So basically, we can say the difference mainly lies in also the strength of habituation and the distance. You know, maybe it has been so many lifetimes before that we have interrupted the habituation, or maybe it was just in previous lifetimes, so we carry a continuum of habituation.
Any questions? Okay, now we talk that lo chusin ro chu lam den ro ta lam tripa se wa se di tara tini ta samba de hingi lam tripa de tini nirang ge lam shu so ma te la go go re ta samba de hingi sanchu ji sem gom de tini ta ji nirang rani ko be dong ha le tham du ge lo de de ga na don ro yo res de sem ji tham ji den ko be dong ha tham du ge lo je de ba tini de la samba de hingi sanchu ji sem 다 삼바든 형제 나한테 공도 롭스 휴에 다 사초지 셈시바데 드니 셈지 탐제지 셈지 탐제 산지지 사람 구고 삼바 다대 로텔라 드니 나한테 사초지 셈스 디셈 대때니 드니 랑게 기브수나 셈지 탐제기 지데 드니 기브수나 삭혀 기브수나 다 나한테 지 짐바다야 추춤송야 조바고야 좀주짬야 다 삼팅고야 시랍게 내로게 돈 또바 대 답은 간소 개와치종 되는 개와치종 쭈줍자 탐지 샘지 탐지 산지 더버 치드 맥네 되는 드비용 거래스 되는 대답다 샘지 대바 찍고 많이 봐 무슨 라닝기 때문에 무슨 라닝기 때문에 당하게 바로 심바도 냠스랑 거래스 바로 심바 쪽에 나네 되는 담보 짐바다 다 짐바데 갈고 짐바 센데 땅한 게 뭐임발다 로바치야 다 텔러 그거 로바치 뭐임발라 밤저기 때문에 강이요나 밤저기 로바치야 뭐임발라 나차게 강이요나 다 텔러지 나차를 줘 민다 요주야 더 초게 짐바다야 야 뭐임발라치 다치 강이 망보요나 다 대달라 피치데 되니 나랑 같이 롭소자야 롭소 째야 디강이데 셈디 강이데 저거 탑 갈란도나 대달라 탑시치야 다치 야뭐 임발치 강이 강다 강 요바 다 너도 멋지고 많이 봐 셈지 무슨 속차 이네 정도 다 대랑하게 강핀 토토 지야 될다 짐바스 야 control은 추바야 짐바나는 두용 거래스 당한지 야 control은 다 메토 퓨야 다 소속이 지 기브수남 치 토비하게 치다야 control은 추바가 비바테다 탐지 짐바 차용 거래 다 대다 탐지 짐바 땅데 되니 제 짐바 땅야데 제 나랑 게 다더라 공등아 좀 많고 쉬요랑 나랑 게치 첸더다 제 스마가 산로 땅송아이나 되니 짐바데다 양답바 차게요 말이 당하게 되는 짐바까 담바 대다 탐지 담봉의 짐바 땅야데 여들라 핀 토고 삼바 대되니 짐바다 땅 차로 요티 개버 잡아대야 심지 탐지 산진구부 치드인 삼바다 들어오게 되니 되는 가서 짐바 땅야 되니 지고레스다 추첨이나 디나이 추첨 송아이나 추첨 세인데 소솔라지 추첨 추르시디다라 먹게반타다 빵네 개와드려야 될 쓰리힘 바르와 춤스는 나랑 그티 디티나 네트바 먹이어 빵트바 기와 드트바 대답더니 추춤 르거 추춤 나게 추춤 이지 추춤 다 추춤 탐 진념는지 트바 되니 존르스 종강게라 좋아오 존르시 바데니 나게다 zu바리다라 zu바 센디티 다랑 나나서 다나 공도 저와 들리나 레비르 zu바 세디티니 매임바적인 알라 강이 제용하이나 zu트바스 랑 심징게 돈르발라 랑라 강이 강조양 심징이 치등아 갑레 자트발라티니 zu트바스 다도 솔로 zu바 그거다 매임비 강이 나랑 제용하이나 teni ngarang ke tela phakangi mate cha ngage sengbe tengdena chi mabdewa ta machiwa kunzi chonsoma ina teni tela zupa cheta dimba chagyo mare zupa cheta dimba chagona ying ngala kangi kangta kangte cha ngage semla manzimba kangi tamje ngage semteni ma shiktaba me yimba la teni 제와 제야라 kaya nupa mi deba tata mati ngala kabjuk tangja ngana semnan zimba kaya mina ku tukpo rang rideur kazi ma yimbe ngala kabjuk tangyo ina teni nge tela pha khorang la ngarang zupa gom leim mate cha ngarang semnana long langwa ina mother talking to tap my dear young do. Carriers not the Naga Semlan Zindeor. Then in Toman Zins not because Zuba said that in Bachakio money. Then the Majin pick up young Alatang, Naga Semla Kaya Manzina. Long Kaya Malamach, Semla Kaya Manzivina. Kabjuk Matang Hunke, Netang Naji, Chagures, then the Tabachita, Zubala. Zuba Goms and Semtene Kangi Zut Pachilla, Kangi Telema, Kangi take Nima de Pakangi Teletor de Pachi. That the Digic Zuba La Poyere, Teta with any Tangage, Semji Tamji don't drip seance do. Then he Kangi Mamboyo or Semjing to Undriella. Then the Teta Tamji Kangi the Donny Chitaba, Kangi Semjing to la Cable Jataba. Nagi lunga is give it our children. Te that tamji. Kangi Kagyu Bayana, Kangi go on the Mashowa, Kangi de la Doninch in it, Montonetini, Yamni, seat the Pachana, did it take Bachimboy and Chagayore, then it is Zuba and said that in Bachagayores. The Mumanga Logigi that Sharipa in Sao Sharipa, Sharipa the Konatambo, take Bachimbo, take Bachimbo, Yamni Chigare. Tabachimbo, Yamni Chene, Tendichi, on Kabla, Mechiki, Korang, Chiranka, making on the trail. The Sharpet Bachim Yamni see the Nindi, then he make the church. Make the change, then he make the Lapa Yormake church. Then he Tata make Tessa take Kabjutan. Kabjutan. Chirang hala cricket the Timbachin, take him and those Chiran Lapa Yormak take those Chiran Lapa Ebak take go to Walla. Then the chain, then sharp at the corner. Tang is some jit on drip to Gumando, Samaketa, Semke, Popate, Shayon. Nay, no Zubuni, then make the intentions of your thing was a corner chain, Coranta don't do but some commandos. Tang is some jit on drip to Gummandos, and then is Semke Popa. The Hine, then you conquer Tamjangan, then you call an teachers. Then do that. Another take Bachimbo Rayna, Simji don't drip, Kate Simjin or Robachin and Simjing so that you know say Kangi Kangte and tell a zoo tapa. That's so you're not take Bachimbo, Zubat said the name, but Chaguyores. Tell letting us my shade and let how you Usulan it and let how you marwa. Yinea, Bezors in Nima Ray in the Tapi de Bayana, because Zuba Cherry and Roya. Zuba Cherry Somayana, then in Agachi, Name Yenare. Or Tobotomo in it, Samachi, Sem, Koyangbo, Samachi, Tab Deo Chaya, that the suit in Unsum with any Tortobia and Dechi among boy and where is. Data with any Zuba, Zundri sent it in give a le de Balatroa Yuba. The name give a le latrim, two Junjungitini, that give a le Jubtaba to Soyongo is.
So before we have said, when the path is confused, then we are still on the state of with the inferior intention of the Shravakas and Pradyekas, and in order to clear away this confusion and for the confusion to dawn as the wisdom, we need to cultivate bodhicitta and loving kindness and compassion. So that is when we then turn away from our personal wish to become liberated from samsara. So then we cultivate bodhicitta, which is the wish to bring all other sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, and that is bodhicitta. And so then that is our intention. And then with that intention, we think that, and for this purpose, in order to bring all beings to enlightenment, I will practice the 6 paramitas. So then you set out in the practice of generosity and ethical discipline and patience, the diligence, meditation, and then wisdom when you realize the nature of the mind. And so whatever virtue you practice, you think it is for liberating beings from suffering and bringing them to enlightenment. And so that mind of bodhicitta, this intention does not remain just an idea in our mind, but actually once we have cultivated it, we also must put it into practice by practicing the 6 paramitas. first we practice the paramita of generosity. And generosity basically means to help others when they have a difficulty. For example, if somebody has a financial difficulty, lives in poverty, and you're able to help them, you would help them. Or if somebody is sick and you can help them with medicine or nursing and caring for them, then you would help them in that way. Or if somebody has some mental problems and difficulties, then you could talk to them and give them good advice, and try to find a way to make them also feel better, and help them release their difficulty in their mind. And so that doesn't only apply to people, also animals and any other sentient being. We benefit them in whichever way necessary and we are able to. So that is generosity. And also it is generosity to make offerings to the 3 jewels, for example. For example, if we make flower offerings and so on. All these things that we offer to the jewels also are actually generosity. And so then when we make the offering, also we should do so with the correct Mahayana intention, and that is not just to think, as you mentioned before, with some intention for some happiness in this life or future lives, because then the act would not be authentic or like a perfect act of generosity. But you should think that whatever I do, this act of giving, that should lead or become the cause of enlightenment of all sentient beings. It is for this purpose that I'm being generous. And so then the same is true for practicing ethical discipline. So ethical here means that you discern between virtue and non-virtue, and you practice the virtue and give up the non-virtue. And then the discipline means that you continue to do that. You're able to remain within such a state of ethics. So you have a discipline of always practicing in an ethical way with body, speech, and mind. And then there is the practice of patience, similar to the question we had before. When somebody gives you a hard time, somebody offends you, then here we have mentioned before, to practice patience also means that there is no hard feelings on the inside, so that you're really able to actually forbear the difficulty, no matter what difficulty it is, and think that I'm forbearing any kind of difficulty, again, for the benefit of all other sentient beings. So whenever somebody would give you trouble, then not only would you not fight back, but also in your mind you wouldn't hold any hard feelings or resentment or some feeling of discomfort, because in that case it would not be perfect patience again. So then perfect patience then is whatever they do to you, you just don't grasp at it at all, and you're able to let go of this miserable thought. And you're able, and it does not obstruct your ability to cultivate love for that person. So it does not affect you negatively in your cultivation of love. So when there's no grasping in the mind, even though somebody like assaults you or offends you, then you would still, if there's no grasping in your mind, then from your side, you're still friends, just like before. There's no difference. Only when we begin to grasp, then we are not friends anymore. So when somebody offends you or scolds you in this way, then you would not only not fight back, but also you would not get angry at them on the inside and have a negative feeling, uncomfortable feeling. If you have uncomfortable feelings and if you're still upset with them, even though you're not fighting back, it's still grasping in the mind, so it's not the perfect patience actually. And so the perfect patience is that you're unaffected on the inside, so you're not upset, you're not angry, you don't grasp at it, you can let it go. And so then from your perspective, your relation to this person is just as it was before the person scolded you. So that is patience. It is that no matter what difficulty you encounter, it cannot affect you in any way, and you're able to let it go in your mind. And also, another side of patience is that you can tirelessly act for the purpose of sentient beings. Even if that entails some difficulties at times, you can take on these difficulties and just forbear them. You will not be controlled by any kind of hardship of body, speech, and mind. You are able to tolerate it without being overpowered by it. And so if you're able to sustain such a forbearance, then it is a perfect patience according to the Mahayana. Also about that, there's a story from Shariputra. Shariputra actually was first a Mahayana practitioner, but then one day a person came up to him and he said, "Give me your eye." And since he's a Mahayana practitioner, he took out one of his eyes and he handed him the eye, however, with his left hand. And so the other person was offended, and he says, you give me things in this disrespectful way. You're not supposed to hand me things with your left hand. You're supposed to pass me things with your right hand. How rude of you. And then Shariputra, he lost heart. And he thought, I'm just not able to benefit sentient beings. There's nothing we value more than the eyes, and I'm giving him my own eye, and he's still not satisfied. So he lost heart and his courage, and because he did that, he actually transgressed his bodhisattva vow. And in this way, he descended from being a Mahayana practitioner to a Shravaka. So an arhat then. So in the Mahayana tradition, when we practice patience, then no matter what others do, no matter how much they try to hurt us, we would not get affected by it, and are able on the inner level to practice patience. So then it becomes perfect patience. And of course, this is easier said than done. We can talk about that, but it's not so easy to actually practice in this way. But the only way to be able to practice in this way is to keep trying each and every day, again and again. And if you keep making an effort on a daily basis, then certainly the patience will gradually increase. And as it increases, you will find more harmony with your family and friends. Your mind will be much more light, and whoever you meet, you will just have a comfortable feeling, and that will also cause a comfort around you for others. And so, so then the next paramita is the paramita of diligence, a joyful effort, and the definition of diligence, a joyful effort, is that you delight in the practice of virtue.
Something 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 Shinek Tandawori same day Nyomobat Megiva Tobake Gujoja Marava Sem Timbo, Samba Timbo, Sem Timbo Netaba Sem Timbo de give us somebody in a netaba Megiva Tobaketini Gujoja Marava Tintel something Dang on a tinichi Yamni Sitaba. Then Shirap Parasimba saying, Shirap said, Man's Shipa rap lovely. Shipas and Shiza, Shipa. There Shipako. Shirap rap saying, Yahutela. Ta Kare, Yahute Kare. Then it tell Shipa tang, rap in Sun Yo, the Shirap Laquare. Ta ten is on you on the Kare rap Chagore, Kare Shi, then Kare rap Chagore Sena. Then Jimdrik and Namyashi. Jimdrig Namja, Le Geva, Senan David Deva in Shiba. Le Megeva, Jenan David Dongai in Shiba. 티시바 될 시랍라 티 시랍 대 땡니 되니 먹게만 타다 빵도 봐 게만 타다 접도 봐 될 시랍라 그요레스
So this joy and this joyous effort or diligence is you have a delight in virtue. So that is, you practice virtue, but uninterruptedly, all the time, and with great joy. And so then the fifth paramita is the paramita of meditation. And so that is first the practice of shamatha, the calm or peaceful abiding. And that is when the mind is not at all moved, disturbed by any thoughts, by no negative thought, nothing disturbs or moves the mind in any way, and the mind is able to just remain with stability, and especially remain within a general mind state of virtue, and not to be moved by any thought of non-virtue. And so that is when meditation is perfected. And then there is the paramita of wisdom. And so in Tibetan, this term is sherab, consisting of two syllables, she and rab. And so she has to do with not knowing, discriminating. And rab means literally the best, or the highest. And so when these come together, the she and rab is like the highest knowing, the greatest knowing. And so what does it know, and why is it the greatest? So what it knows is that it knows the workings of karma. So it knows that if one engages in virtuous action, there will be happiness, and if one engages in non-virtuous action, there will be suffering. So that is what this knows. And then it is the greatest knowing, because it also is able to give up. Knowing that, it is also able to give up those negative actions, and it is able to practice those virtuous actions.
Lam tripa seva seta lam tripa sendi tripa tara running koal tandu ke lote de dele done tene semji tamje tene koa de dongale dorgo sambatene tene ngage gibele ta parasimba tokta betene nyams lan tende chi goyore tele tine ta ngaranso tara running koal tandu 그 로데 돈에 semjinje 돈 drogo sambat lo te tene ta tikpa chimbos tene tarang ngaranso jebe chinre chungsum nangni jebe chimbo lamte chagayores ta tin jode ngaranso tene ta tsikan yibate yinba lo chusun rowa chu lamden rowa lan tripa sewan tripa yisin chawas tin tripa yisin chawate titen leben gor tripa yisin charsen tripa de karen trur ngaranso ubo 탐제 따라 낭데 바 열 zugdatro 대다 탐제 낭데 바 데라 우보든 지만 지네 신진게 로 지네 딘반 진바 로데 디미 ngaranso 트르송아레스 드니 디 추바 이시선 char거나 이시세야 돼 우보탐 지말레 맞어봐 우보탐 지말레 맞어봐 하코니기 히바들 히바스 ye dumane ngale semje nelok ye domane yodebe semje nelok tela yishi yan la fyores ta te tab nelok togona tini ngaranso chutamje tongbanida hakogo yores ta titeni ma leben gores.
So the third dharma you have said is grant your blessing so that the path may clarify confusion. And so here we have said that here we are turning away from the wish to be liberated from samsara just for ourselves. And we cultivate actually a wish to liberate all sentient beings from the suffering of samsara. And in order to do so, we engage in virtuous action, such as the 6 paramitas. So when you have this wish, I'm engaging in this practice in order to liberate all sentient beings, and then that is the Mahayana intention. So we have said there is the path of the higher, middling, and lower capacity. And so this path then of the Mahayana here is the one of the highest capacity, and that wishes to liberate all sentient beings. And so then next we come to the 4th Dharma. So we have turned our mind towards the Dharma, and the Dharma has become the path. Path is clarified of confusion. And now, lastly, confusion must dawn as wisdom. So what is this confusion? What is it? How are we confused? The confusion is that we are holding to be true those objects that appear to us in a material way. So we perceive substantial things, and such as like forms, and also like sounds and smell and so forth, touch. And then whatever we perceive, we hold that to be true as a substantial separate entity, and we label it with ideas. So that is the grasping at the reality. And so this grasping at the reality of whatever appears to us, that is the confusion. So in order for the confusion to dawn as wisdom, we need to realize that those things actually lack any such substantial existence, lack any of those labels, ideas that we ascribed upon them. And so that knowing then becomes wisdom. And that wisdom here is also a primordial wisdom, because that wisdom is the primordial nature of the mind. And that is realized when you realize the nature of the mind. In order to realize the nature of the mind, we must understand the empty nature of all phenomena.
가르송교에서는 나라서 심지 탐지게 줄래 이시티 이어레스. 예시세드 나라서 심지 탐지게 줄래 이시티 이어레데 나라서 출송했어. 출송도 되니 나라서 코와 참여한 거랬어. 다 출바 이시신 찰 세연서도 나라서 줄래 유데비 이시테 아주 하고인 거. 줄을 요데 비시트 하고한데 추와 탐지 생도 거래스. 추와 탐지 생용하이나 되는 거라서 동할을 쪼고요레스. 동할을 쪼와들더니 산지에서 들으선 거요레스. 다 다른 안 소치 니니 용거 니니 빼나 다든 인 코와든 냐한데 세다 근데 니니니 가리지 용거요레. 당안 좀 춘네. 출부 지선자네. 된 초발에 딘반지네. tene dayi nisin zin, konde nisin zin, ta te taba tene nga tsun zin de yore. Zin ne tene tele tene nga tsu kowa la, koko yore. Yo korang tene rangi ji madrpa chago yore. Rangi madrpa yin jang nga tsu ha mao ne, chun ne, chubi jisin jang ne, tene nga tsun zin pa che ne, tene nga tsun kondo yore. Tara pena nga tsu je Gampopa ke tara Dhargye 가르송 요리세나 코와도 양인데 바니 이게 찍바래 송요. 간디지는 코와도 양인데 바니 이게 찍바래세나 코완데야 라인지 똥바니서 코와도 코란 라인지 똥바니래서 드니 샘진 남친 코와도 라인지 똥바니 하마오네 드니 남바 출소 말이에요. 천리 다른 낭대 방법 탐진 진바제네. 되니 대응보리산 딘바리산은 진네. 되니 tellatine 되니 남바 출소 말이에요. 다 남바 출와 tellatine 되니 추비지신다네. 되니 랜드라만다사네. 되니 대 코번 진이 되니 코 동아 용도요래서 마또 역하는 동반이래서 요래. 대해서는 코와 히바데다 나 출소만이 봐. 송고요래. 냥인 데바 히바데 가리르시나 냥인 데바 코라야나 이 똥반이래서 냥인 데바 코라 똥반이래서 냥인 데바데 랑이 똥반이 봐 남바 추와 탐지 세진 야와인 봐 세진 야송요레스 신이 농하 탐지 저송요레서 단 너들 내려고 동 이게 똥반이 봐 하고서도 드니고 참아거라 대가라나지 나빠 추와야 대가라나고 행도요레 신이 농하야 대가라나고 돈돈에 마도 지 농하시 바지 접대 바지 통투고요 말이스 자기 똥반이 차용요레스 대해서는 되는 콘텐츠이 있으네 나좀 철송화되는 고와 맞춰버들 냐한테 수송고요레스 다 다랑 안 소치 남주치 다 다라 철든 트비지스 다 장내더니 나다 추 시바다 들려면 나다 추요 빨라티네 되니 동아요 거요레서 배낭 안서 우만주바나 갈송을이스나 당봉아시 달라 신주진 다긴듯이 응을 착받지에서 담봉아 히바지 켈리 nga hibachi trade ba keli te nga hibachi kelang se yin hibachi yorji kelin ro teni telatene nga hibada nga ke ta ji nam insin punji chama nga hibatene chakwache yo ta danjin che yin hiba chama dangwa che nga hibatene jinba che ta tendrig na ne teni lesa ne telatene teni kowa la yang kowa la koyo reso teni songo yo res 다 초바 20전 차르세인데 다 내로게 돈 이거나 이 말을 봐 대하고 요거요 대하고 할 때는 든 초바 20전 차게요레스 대다보다 초바 20전 차르거나 되는 안서 레라오요 말에서 레라오요 말에 telā ngārāṋ tini sūnam jāchīṃ sāgō pa gēvele māṅpo dhōgō ya tanda sūṅgō yore
So this wisdom, confusion made honest wisdom, this wisdom is actually, this primordial wisdom is actually, all sentient beings possess that wisdom. That is their true nature, but they are confused. And because they are confused about their true nature, they wander in samsara. So they have confused about not knowing that they actually do have this primordial wisdom. They are confused, so they can't see that. And if they would see, whenever they see the wisdom that is actually there as their true nature, then at that moment all the confusion would fall apart and they would be free from all suffering and attain enlightenment. But now, from our perspective, this world, it all appears as in this dualistic way. Everything appears in pairs. So there is self and others, there's samsara and nirvana. Everything appears in this duality to us. And it appears in this way because we are confused. And because we are confused, we follow these perceptions, that is, we grasp at them, and by doing that, objectify them, and so therefore we grasp at a subject-object duality, and grasp at their separate entityness, the separate existence. And so this is how we begin to perceive self and other, samsara and nirvana in a dualistic way. And this is why we wander in samsara. So by nature, all of these do not actually exist. These dualistic ideas, samsara itself, does not actually inherently exist. But we do not know that. We are confused, and therefore we follow our confusions. We keep grasping, and therefore we continue to wander in samsara. In Gampopa's Jewel Ornament of Liberation, it says, samsara and nirvana have a single basis, and that is that the nature of samsara is emptiness. But sentient beings don't know that because they're confused. And because they are confused about the empty nature, they hold all appearances as real. So whatever appears they believe that it possesses some separate existence, a true existence. So that is the confusion, and they continue to pursue this confusion, and because of that, they continue to accumulate more and more karma. And as a result of that, it is the nature of samsara that they will endlessly experience suffering. But still, the basis of samsara is empty, and we are when we are in the basis is the same. It is an empty basis, and when the mind is confused, then we can call that samsara. And the mind is not confused, then we call that nirvana. So then that is when we recognize the empty basis. That is what we call nirvana then. And so when the confusion becomes cleared away, then all the grasping to outer appearances fades away, vanishes, and one becomes liberated from those characteristics of samsara, all suffering. And then when all suffering falls apart, when confusion falls apart, you will become liberated from suffering entirely. And so suffering itself then is realized as not inherently existing. It is not seen as a separate thing that actually is true and exists. When you realize this empty basis, then also suffering naturally appears empty. And so then the confusion dawns as wisdom. So basically, samsara and nirvana have a single basis, are a single nature actually. But then when we are confused about this nature, we call that samsara, this confusion. And when we are not confused about this nature, when we see it, it is called nirvana. And so normally we follow our confusions, and we grasp at the subject-object duality. We think there's me and I, and then there's you. About that, it is also explained in Entering the Middle Way, that once there is a self, once we have agreed that a self exists, once we perceive that, then that requires that there must be an other. So then the other comes into existence, all the others. And then anything that we are attached to belongs to the I side. So then you have your family and your friends and all those that you love, that you're attached to, you become attached to, that you identify with through self-grasping. And then the rest of the others you have an aversion to. And so in this way we wander in samsara. So when confusion dawns as wisdom, then you realize that in reality, then within the natural state, all of that does not inherently exist. So when you realize that, then confusion dawns as wisdom. And of course, for confusion to dawn as wisdom, we need to engage in extensive practice, a great deal of accumulation of virtue and merit and so on. And it is by all means not something that easily dawns upon us, but it requires a really a great accumulation of merit.
Lama chini da dimba chi ndona tini jane tini ngaranke nyams lang nyamne se na tini de tini ta nelo semje nelo shibate kare yimba chutamje rangye madbe shibate kare yimba ta di tini tini nga ha ko tbya tende yong yores penna nga so tera 사라하바 가리송요리스나 라마 롱레 듬데 균베나 린지 기버 좀 태초미서 다 라마 라틴이 가게 령아 이스임지고니 티니 그빠침보당 티니 무그다 제바 대고네 티니 라마데 까히 니네 대드네 티니 티 민가 톱네 티니 냠니 제바이나 티니 셈지네로데 제야라 레라오리서 티니 대다 라마데양 라마데라 냠다 똑바요바 냠다 똑바요바 셈지네로 또데 라마지라 고고래 당하는도 지 벤통도 지 슈바이나 나들은 가자 대답은 내로 또더니 라마 셈지네로 또더니 라마 하장게 뇽뇽인 거다 뭐만 안 하서 지 가죽 남탈도서는 따대 바이나 다 셈지네로 또대 봐다 가죽 고마 다 말봐 말라 감보바 다 대다 탐지 다 접어 왕수 침보 다 셈지네로 또대 봐 랑 셈지네로 된 또인데 될 때는 랑게 랑 도데바 아
두배 왕수 쳔바 밀레레파 라그래
참마 코런스 참마 접어 왕수 침보로 가지고 고마스 참마 랑게 셈제네로 또 발티네 랑게 추탐지랑 이 딤바마 르바 하고 대때네 yin 로마 탐제라더니 대답을 랑가 띵트버 다 가지고 고마서 대답을 샤다 중요해 다 들은 가장 안한 소리지 줄로 닝마 사자 길로 대다 탐제라 대답을 아마 망부 유도 유지리 근데 나랑도 따라 희산라고 지내다 나랑도 지 체대 딘바지 누구 쪼거나 근데 땅 가지는 뭐 치는다고 지이나 다 가지고 고마도 좋다 궁받다 예미바 또 어디니게 라마한테 차대요레스 간드리스나 콩게 담보 줄을 톡제바 침보요 봐 대때니 콩게 hlomage 콩게 톡게 제와친 뭐 가리되는 용거 콩게 샘게 내lok도 반도게 침바탐지 딘데 라마인데 텔레테니 샘지 탐지를 콩게 제와친 보여 봐 hloma 탐지게 줄라 hloma 탐지게 줄라 되니 강이다 동안을 좁대버 눈터요 돼봐 로마 때다 탐지기 유튜다 때네 되니 공기지 나게 셈지 내로 또 대바 대때니 근데 yin 로마 탐지양 대답 단진당 동안을 좁다버더니 공라 누바요 대바 되니 용거요래 대답을 하면 되니 되니 가서 그치 치다 민아 현에 고갑장부 대답을 유대바된 가서 고갑도 마셔봤지네 대때니 치명아 현에 되니 소소소게 냠내잖아 되니 린지 기빠른 용아 태송미스 샘제 내로 또 틈틈게 태송고 말해서 샘제 내로 또 그요래서 가르리스는 라마 나랑게 잡을 라마 콩대답 샘제 내로 또바 인상 대인들이 민가의 치 쉬는 냠니 제바이나 되니 나랑야 대답 또 터바데 데 용거요래서 짐레게 되네 대답 용거요래 간이 잡는 땅나더니 뒤되니 또 터고요래서 두니 지미 라yin 발라 드링 빠데 라마 띵데 또서 대답 다 라마 민가 다 딘바 냠 또바데 딘바 라면 되니 되니 가서겠지 티다 민가 쉬는 냠스 랑와라 띵네 되니 텔레티네 되니 나게 샘지 내로데다 라마 가데나 되네 되니 또 송시 다 살아하바게 되는 순거요레스 너나 지금 가서 샘지 내로 써야 돼 카게 이거는 셰레 라오레 다랑 안서 제 취탐지 딘바 마르바 라이 동반이 임바 땅아주 셰드는 정말 셰트고요래 정말 때로 럽정 제대요래 셰트고요래 얘는 동을 보기 때문에 줄을 대다고 또 되니 자나니 찍니마도 용토고요 말해
자나
자자 베나 자타서나니 레레서 용시바레스
레레라
레레스 용시바레스 유시바레 되는데 대답은 되네 치명하시나 되는 가서게 냠도바 나한테 줄을 째용 거요레스 마도 나한테 카지봉라고 지게 돈이 시에대밖에 다 시바보라니게 내로게 돈 마도 사대더니 로마나 대답 토야 갑자기 카포용 거요레스 되는데 당 나한테 샘제 내로 단 탈타고 내로게 돈 또 오거나 그래 라만 신이도 된바 든디지기 때문에 민가 이셔네 대게 냠 디 민가 가래 나요와이나 대 따부터 나게 냠내세네 tini kitini toko yore mato tini le lao yong tubu yo mares 대 따부 라마 진 최소한이나 대라 나게 찌직데 대바 요와 미바지 요나 tini nganglachi nelo ko to tubu yore so tini songdos.
So when we normally meditate and we look at the mind, the nature of the mind, and then when you actually look at the nature of the mind, then there is nothing to be seen that possesses any sort of existence. And so that is the natural emptiness of the nature of mind. And so this is something that we can say much easier than we can realize. So we can talk about that much easier. But then when we really look at it and think about it, it's not so easy actually to actually realize what that actually means. To actually realize the nature of the mind and that it doesn't really inherently exist, and that all phenomena do not really inherently exist, that they lack any substantial separate existence, these are concepts that we can understand and we can talk about, but it's more difficult to actually really perceive it that way and realize it. So then in order to realize it, in order to realize the nature of the mind really as it is, it is necessary that we follow and practice under a qualified, authentic guru. And so then through the guru's instructions we learn what is the nature of the mind, what is the nature of all phenomena, how is it that it all lacks an inherent existence. So then based on these instructions, we can begin to really understand. So the Master Saraha had said that when you rely on the guru, you should rely on the guru with a great devotion and respect of body, speech, and mind, and receive the instructions, the teachings, and then practice just according to those instructions. If you actually follow that, then actually it is quite easy to realize the nature of the mind. And so that requires, of course, a guru that possesses great experience and realizations. So it must be a guru that has realized the nature of mind. And there are even not many gurus who have truly realized that nature. And so when we look in the past, for example, in the old Kagyu masters, into the stories of the old Kagyu masters, there are some great beings, some great Mahasiddhas who have realized the nature of the mind, such as Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa, and so forth. And so these are the old Kagyu masters, and they have realized the nature of the mind as it is, and they have, because of that, having realized the nature of the mind, they also realized the lack of true existence of all phenomena. And having realized that, then they have been able to show the actual path to their disciples, so those past masters. And then, of course, also in the Nyingma, Sakya, and Gelokpa lineages, there are also nowadays probably many great gurus who have realized that and who have great experience. But so then, from our perspective, somebody that we personally know, that is a prime example of a qualified guru who has really realized the nature of the mind that we can actually identify, for example, is Dorzin Rinpoche, His Eminence Dorzin Rinpoche. And Dorzin Rinpoche's realization, his experience, is really identical to that of all the past Kagyu masters. And so it is because as we know him, he has great love for all sentient beings. And actually his great love is actually a sign that he has realized the nature of the mind, and he has attained highest realization. This is why he has this capacity to equally love all sentient beings. And so therefore he's also able to protect, he has the power to protect sentient beings and his disciples from their suffering and from all their difficulties. It is because of his great love that can actually has the capacity to embrace them all. And so when you've realized the nature of the mind, then really only you're able to really benefit the others, the disciples. So when a master has realized the nature of mind, then he has the power to liberate the disciples from their suffering, from their self-grasping. And so when we have such a qualified guru, then we should make sure we do not lose this excellent opportunity to receive Rinpoche's and Jetsun Rinpoche's instructions, his teachings, because he has really the power to liberate his disciples. And having received the instructions, we need to engage in practice. And if we engage in practice, it is said that then there's really no doubt that you will realize the nature of the mind. And that is because the root guru himself had realized the nature of the mind. And if we receive the instructions from a guru who has realized the nature of mind, and then we engage in practice accordingly, then also we can realize the nature of our mind. And so it requires a guru, a qualified guru that possesses the instructions and the experience, the realization. And if we receive the instructions from such a guru and then practice accordingly, then through that guru's kindness, we will realize the nature of the mind. So this again is what Saraha had taught. And so this is again easier said than done. So we can speak about this easier. We can speak about the nature of the mind, and we can speak about how phenomena lack inherent existence and how they are empty. We can talk about all that, and we all certainly have studied that. But then it's still so hard to fully actualize that. So maybe of 100 practitioners, a single one possibly could fathom that, actualize that. But however, if we do receive the instructions from such a qualified guru with realizations and experience, that gives us these instructions, not just like speaking about it, but actually coming from an experience, and then we really can realize the nature of the mind. And of course, on the other hand, if the guru lacks such a realization and only talks about the nature of the mind and has not actually realized that, then clearly it will also be difficult for the disciples to realize the nature of the mind. Then it can't be passed on. So in order to realize the nature of the mind, we need to receive the instructions first from an authentic guru. And then having received those instructions, we must put them into practice. And as a result, we will realize the nature of mind. And that requires, of course, practice, and it is nothing that is so easily accomplished. But if we really rely on this guru wholeheartedly, single-pointedly, unwaveringly, and with great devotion, then we surely can realize the nature of the mind.
Lama tsendi deni chi de minga shene deni semje nelo hako te deni semje nelo hako ne deni gomja ne ta tindi chi indi deni ngage injing gi chingwa tamchi shi semje nelo to tindi yong ge yore ta tindi yong de deni tara ngaran so ubo tan chima lan jin de pe unjing ge chinjing ge lo de don ro ge yore 친진게 로도 받들더니 추바 20cm 차와스 델레드네드니 산지지 공파 토고요래 너나 따라가는 지 감보바게다 세계요와 로추스도 대게 담보 말한서 첸데 신진 차바도 첸데 신진 차바 마타바 줄을 전에 첸데 신차탐지도 델레드네 출람든도 lam tripa sewa sendi tini ngaranga chu yinda jin indi tini che chu de jewa samagan tori ge chi de ma yinba sanji ji gongpang tobe chi de yinba de ha gong di tene deha kowal tine tene tori dang sesman tori ke la chi deji ke ne de la chi ke tene lo de do tene lam tripa seba sendu tarang chi tikba mi ba nyerang ke ta nyerang ke tadbla tene jing ko bu ha de he ne nyerang ke lam la tan de lam che mani san chun ro ya de ke yin bo de la tene samba de nin je sa chu sim gong ba la tene tene ngarang chi ji nyerang ta ji shawa nyer so so chi dong ha le zo wa so so jing ko wa la ta ya ke tene lo de do 단 트바 이히스 차와 현데 트바 이히스 차와 현데 되니 트바 이히스 차야게 내로 동동데 되니 간주 응보던 치만은 진데 운징 치와 탐제를 조용 거래 단 코와 히바데 가리 되는 용거여서나 운징게 되는 용거래 냥인 대바 히바데 가리 되는 용거여서나 샘제 내로 또봐다 대니게 되니 체세가 거와 대인도 그 응보던 치만 진ben 친징 운징데 치마데 해용하니나 그 냥인 대바 공판데 디데니 토고 요레스 데데 츠이기나 다 동차 상마지 든지진도 요레스 데데 다 드랭안소 뒤추기 진베다 든지지 뒤추다 나랑게 용띠니기 때문에 다 시에 상마 조성시
So we receive, when we receive the instructions from such an authentic guru, and then we understand the nature of the mind. And then we continue to meditate, to practice, and then as a result of meditation practice, then gradually our dualistic grasping at self and others, duality, the bondage of duality will collapse, and eventually we then realize the nature of the mind. And so here, when the mind has turned away from grasping at the truth, at the substantial outer truth and our labels to them, then it is the time when the confusion has dawned as wisdom. And then when that dawns as wisdom, we attain enlightenment. And so again, to summarize those 4 Dharmas of Gampopa, first we have said for the mind, when the mind turns towards the Dharma, we turn away from our clinging attachment to this life, and in order to do that we cultivate the thought of impermanence in our mind. And then next, for this Dharma to become the path, then we also recognize that even in the higher realms we cannot find any happiness. So we do not aspire the happiness, the higher birth of the higher realms, and understand that that true happiness is only in the state of enlightenment. So then we turn away from that thought when the Dharma becomes the path. And then when the path clarifies confusion, the third point, so that is when we turn away from the view of the lower vehicle of the Shravakas and Pradyekas, because here we recognize their thought as delusion. So they are afraid of the suffering of samsara, and they believe that they are on the authentic path, abiding in the authentic result. So that delusion we turn away when the path is clarified of confusion. And so then we apply the antidote to that, and the practice here in the third point, to turn away from this confusion is to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, bodhicitta. And by doing that, we turn away from the intentions of the Shravakas and Pradyekas, only seeking their own peace and happiness, their own liberation from samsara. So we turn away from our own selfish wish to become free from samsara. And then it leads to number 4, the confusion that dawns as wisdom, and that is when we realize the actual nature of the mind. And when we realize the nature of the mind, we become free from the bondage of the grasping at a concrete, substantial reality, and also the concepts, the labels in our mind about them. So samsara is to grasp at this reality, and nirvana is to have realized the nature of the mind. And when you realize the nature of the mind, then this grasping at an outer reality falls apart. So really all the teachings are, the entire meaning of all the teachings is really included in those 4 Dharmas of Gampopa. And so due to the lack of time and also a lack of my own qualities, the teachings have come to an end.
Finish.
So we have time for about one question, so we don't have time for much question, but if you have a question, you can ask it.
In the Karma Kagyu lineage prayer, there's a portion that says, grant your blessing that, I don't know if I'm saying it right, grant your blessing that I realize samsara and nirvana as inseparable.
Which one of those 4 is it, do you know?
It's in a Karma Kagyu.
But those 4 Dharmas of Gampopa, right? Or a different one, sorry. Yeah.
Could you, do I understand that to mean that it's the same mind that experiences samsara that also experiences nirvana?
Is it the same mind?
Yeah, is it the same mind?
The Karma Kagyu nangla Atotene dia kara korba tang nyangene dewa yerme bata waris lagato semging wo deni ina deni ta korba semdi tang nyange de tope semdi yorba sem chik parve
chik pare ta tara chirang chwat chidri da tara je ramzon do je kare song yoresena sem de songore yupa ya mai yupa mai jarveja mazes mipa mai konde kunji yes yupa mai jare mipa mai konde kunji garda mai sungju umalam
garda mai zati
garda tini korani garde pa yomi ni kawa mai garda mai sungju umalam thadra semje nelo to par hyo se ya ta chi yore pachi chirang tawa tein sare
thatu khawa thama
thadar tham jawa yomi ki tham je da
tene
ta te song ndi
me
tara
chuk dikhara thadal dene
te ta thadar semje nelo to par hyo ro
to seminen da basho
ta semje nelo hendu semhi pachi jobde pachi yupachi 산지 좀 된 통고요 말해서 접대 바지 다 요 말이 랍고는 쓰지게 랍투고요 말해서 가르스는 코와는 콘도야 그 저지 요래스 코야 요래스 유밤이 미바 근데 가드 마이스 다 유바야 미바야 마이스 유바리 있으네 티야미바 미바 말이 있으네 양이 요대바 너르드나 유민이긴 다 탐지는데 에데바 semjing ote yomi 탐지긴 다 탈린데 에데바 데라더니 데 semjing 내로 세야디 차용거 요레스 다 semjing 내로 센데 요미긴 다 탐지를 자와 하고와데 땅만서 이시 남는데 그 요레 요미긴 다 탐지를 자와 하 마오네 다 맞어 마렉바게 지신다네 다 코와 라 딘진제네 되는 철성화텔라 다 콘로화텔라 되는 코와 세계요 다 이게 찍고 찍잖아 이게 찍니 코데 나바니 차는 거 요르시
so kan min kare rangchung
jeranzon도 까마바란zon도 제
so the karma pa rangchung dorje had said a prayer. He said that so the nature of mind is neither existing. Not even the Buddhas have seen it. And it is also not non-existing because it is the basis of samsara and nirvana. It is free from the contradiction between existence and non-existence. Therefore, it is the great union of the middle way. May I realize the nature of the mind that is free from all extremes. The nature of the mind is not an existing thing because it lacks inherent existence. Even like a Buddha couldn't say this is how it is constructed. It is not such a thing. It has no substance. But then, even though it has no substance, we can't say it doesn't exist either, because there are causes that, due to causes, we do wander in samsara, and there is an attainment of nirvana. So there is not nothing. So we can't say it's nothing. It is just a nature that can neither said to be existing nor said to be non-existing. It is free from any of those conceptual limitations of existence and non-existence. So therefore it is free from any extremes. And that nature is this primordial wisdom, the wisdom here. And that is the nature of our mind. But if sentient beings do not realize that, they don't understand this nature, they are unaware of this nature, they're ignorant, and therefore believe in their reality of their confused perceptions, and therefore they wander in samsara. But in reality still, it is a single basis, but then it goes two ways, either realizing it or not realizing it. Does it answer your question?
Okay.
Is it possible to also exercise the gap between our thoughts?
Andre namjo nga so andre si gom jane de yong gorwa gom jane de enditini semjong gom sen di chi zok tan simal trip de ba chi gom go yo mare gom de ke yo mare sem khorang o la ta yo semjong o khorang ta de o semjong o sem se chi trip de ba chi thung go yo mare sane sem de ma thong go yo mare yina yang ana so namto 망보 지어는 거다. 남도 망보 지어는데 다 센트 많이 봐지 다되나 거 남도 지어나 남도 힘마 지야 된가 자마 맞지. 야나 남도 째자 남조 코랑은 진바 맞지. 다 든지 저는 남도 코랑을 지 가비야게 접지 강야 맞지베지. 다 든지 되되나 되니 이렇게 요사리스.
틴티 팔라 파르티쿠라
다 바르스는 지 남도 흠맞지 그 남도 히bat 인데 용 쳐주주나이 근데 척힘마 밥 자마 밥 마밥세지 용거 말와 근데 샘정 올랐다 안된 삼선 남도 미바셈 띵든 니마다 따라 띵든 니마다 버스 삼사고 남도 거랑 체용거다 대대 내록 착어요 대내록 착어요 얘네야 다 남도 지해요 바하고 되는 진바 맞지베지 되는 진바 강야 맞지베지 진바 강야 맞지는 남도 그런 지해요리도 행도 지해요리도 행도 샘주 샘 살라미요 샘 살라미요 그 남도 지와 임바 하고
So when we meditate, then there's not actually such a substantially existing thing that we call meditation that we meditate upon. But when we truly meditate, we are just observing the essence of the mind, and then when we view the nature of the mind, then there's nothing that is there to be seen. But then there are many thoughts that always arise, and for as long as you're not distracted, thoughts can arise. You can observe their passing as they arise without distraction, without following them. And so this space in between, so sometimes it is the case that when a thought has passed and another one not arisen, then between that is a space. But also we could understand it in this way that even if there's no space, so to say, even if there is arising thoughts, then still you should not grasp at them. So then you're still sustaining the mind in the natural state, as long as you do not grasp at whatever arises. So as long as you just let everything be natural, without rejecting or without inviting, without doing anything to it at all, you're only observing the arising and the passing. And thoughts will always naturally come. It is just the continuous arising nature of the mind, just like when a water flows, a river flows, then there will not be suddenly stop and then a space, then there's no water flowing, and then it goes flowing again. So it keeps flowing anyways. But even if it flows, then you should not grasp at it. And also sometimes another example is that sometimes it does become like a cloudless sky and the sun becomes apparent. So then sometimes there is a moment where there's actually no thought. A thought is interrupted. And that state is also the nature of the mind. But whether or not thoughts arise, even if thoughts arise, as long as you do not grasp at them, they will just collapse on their own again, and you will observe them passing. So when the mind is undistracted, the mind is very clear, and then it just knows of the arising of thoughts and in a way detaches and lets them go.
Tato nga gom jang de tene namto khang zimba ma hyochi. Sem mayen wachi. Namto khang zimba ma chechi. Tadeji den dikar.
So when we meditate, the essential point is that the mind does not grasp at whatever thought arises, and within that state of non-grasping remains undistracted. That is sufficient for our meditation.
Tang anso druma che tona samson ten ditini ta pacher druma te tara pui choa te yosamare chi so sama inchi insarwa
ye pui ti datang Dakyo
Drabyo yore ta nge long che dongo samso chiran so yang ta long mina.
Do we happen to have the text in Tibetan also, in a script, Tibetan script? So because he was thinking about giving the long, the transmission, but he probably would need the Tibetan letters. I never had. Okay, use them already.
Yeah, ta nge chik dong yung gi tene yang da ta ma da nge chiang twa ta yung da. Long dong yung.
Oh, anyways, he try to give a transmission just like that, and you can check his pronunciation.
iPhone on me.
iPhone nanglamen dok internet 살고래 마독.
Internet yo na 잘는데.
살고래.
잘 쇼데.
What's iPad yo na yagowa?
iPhone.
Maybe do you have internet in your iPad? Yeah, maybe it's better than the iPhone probably, yeah. Yeah. But where can you find it? Do you know where to find it?
I'm sure it's on the Dorzin Institute.
I think so. Actually, I never downloaded it. But I can check it. Wait a minute.
I don't know, we'll have to see.
Maybe first check Dorzin.net. I'm going to check it too.
I have one at home, but it's not here.
Yeah, ta morang te nyong de ngarang su kama nga yuri twa US.
Tani nga taumeta.
Te mog tando.
You know where to check, yeah? You know where to check, yeah?
No.
You don't know? Look at the Dorzin.net and then the web store then. So in the meantime, do you have any other questions?
Or you could even call Trish and see if she could tell you where to find
Yeah, that could take some time. Fisha ka batang
Matang ya.
di ko mara.
Goma. Nga kitchen but the mug get the yo mara kitchen but the cho yo mara.
So kitchen but mara.
Hey, is your
My
connected?
No.
And I'm looking
I'm getting
not
around
even-
that through my phone. Archin.com.
meditation practice maybe.
Do you know Rigpa?
Sadhanas.
Rikpa. Yes, yes.
So to apply for the nature of the mind in Rigpa?
Rikpa is in nature mind.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Rikpa is Rig means see. Can see.
So
What can see and nature mind.
Oh, wait a minute here. So they have no internet connection. I think this. Oh, so you have to buy it for $20. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Second. Wait a minute, this one maybe.
Pachun diksari.
Is it away?
I think I okay.
What is the long life prayer? This go, the kamachiko. Well, it's not on the actually Garchen Institute webpage. So don't even, yeah, but it is, but you have to buy it. And then I don't know if you can download it. I think they will send it to you actually. Yeah, I think it's Stream of Nectar, yeah.
So Rigpa is the gap.
Gap means what?
Party. Party.
The Rikpa say in the parse, she can hear you. Simply Nelo to what the Rikpa love.
We're not talking about space, a gap, but the nature of the mind.
The nature of the mind, but to realize the nature of the mind, be able to get past to see the nature of the mind.
Yes.
Is the thoughts to
Rig say the Toma la Cocorta. Tom pass in the Yula conjugate or
Juk,
Rig pass.
So it means to, you see,
Then
Rig
here, Uncle,
means
and
to see, like you see the prayer wheel,
can see.
you know it, you see it, but then the bar is that you, like you sustain, you preserve this knowing.
Then it Tara Chugan and Rigba here and said, Karek Yorisena, Semchi Neluk Tong.
La.
Semchi Nelung Toma de Rigba.
And seeing the nature of the mind, that seeing is the Rigpa.
Tara de Nimake Rigba Laguer, Kagyu Semchi Nelung Toma la Kurani. Don't have it, main Pijuta.
So we use different like names, in the Nyingma often they say Rigpa. Then in the Kagyu tradition we talk about it as like the natural state of the mind or so, but it's the same. They're different terms.
I wonder if it's on the Albuquerque website.
Okay, I think I can read, okay? Yeah, try.
You remember from memory?
I think I found it, but the only thing I can't open. In the southwest Buddha field, but it doesn't open. I don't know why. The white Sambala opens, but
Sometimes,
but the other text opens. Funny, yeah.
in Albuquerque website, they have a bunch of information also. So
They have text to download.
No, my means you pen leg just go. Tini ta nga te nge tren nga ran tsu chi ta Rinpoche nga shi Rinpoche ta nga ran tsu la ka rin san ji ma cha pa cha de yore tini kong ke ka rin so wa tang kong kutse yung Rinpo yu ya ke chi te tini nga ran tsu dhuma shab tin tendeji tuna ngarang ke ti tendeji samsung te yunge kazang chuzo la re kweshi pa yin tene ngaso Singapore ro che ina tene doma te takpan dong kwe yore doma te donya ke miyu jimsing ka re sena ta Rinpoche ke kong loma yongzo la ta doma te dongo yu sone ta kadena ka nang yore kare jin nang yore sena ta ngarang so loma tamche la ta dongha mampo yore 동화 망보 요 고온데 tene 동화 tele chop tele te seyes ne Jetsun Milarepa 대인데 tene ta chiranso druma to tene songko yore tene Rinpoche khona nange na ta druma de zo nyamning ge zo ta druma rang nang ko yore nga sam shi yore to zo guba jimsi mangpo la tene nga su kadu ina tene druma mangpo nong ko yo te mago tene nitong je ni go zong ne tene dongka ke nimpa 동직 다 Rinpoche 그치 샤페 용데 띵양 치다 던저사야 가서 고조네 다
Singapore.
싱가포르 다 가주때 찹다나는 야예 요래더니 잡을린 가와니 지 Rinpoche 치다 그럼 루마 님바사나 되니 님바 그 장가데 디나나 야야 가서 던저 지 요래 때 가르지는 가서 던지 사게 요래선다 Rinpoche 그치 샤페지 Rinpoche 유바이나 전 로아르고 심지 탐제다 양그서 되니 ngaranso 레히 뒤바 콩은 제데바 탐제라 무쇼 주스는 그때니 되니 핀토 잠지 마차바지 요인데 되니 데라 때네 되니 콩끝에 샤베 같이 띵바이나 대잠지게 심지 탐제라 동 짜침부지 드비운데 데라 때네 되니 맞아 주마데다 끝에 샤베는 보띵야라 치드 되니 맞아 주마데 동kö요래 되니 다지 당하는 가와소나야 사자 가와소나야 제 Rinpoche 끝에 샤베 띵야 치등에 주만노야게 목거 휴요 삼상아 안 여러도 소는 로고요 뭐시 망보미 뉴뉴요래 뭐시 빠지 이난다 쥐 이난다 네 코란 소를 주마통 텐데스네 주마테 콜홍 치게요 대인데니 아날렙디야 주마치 투나 야지 가란 소 로마 탐질라나 약보리 추초라나 약보리 롱바 코란나나 약보 용거요래 데레 Rinpoche 끝에 샤베 띵야나 핀토요 짐치 때데니 띵에 가나 주마치 투나스야게 메요테인스.
So the purpose of doing the Vaitara practice is I've requested the center that we can practice the Vaitara practice because on behalf of Garchen Rinpoche, because Garchen Rinpoche we know has been incredibly kind to us, and so in order to somehow repay his kindness and also in order to pray for his long life. And it's very important that we practice, and I've requested the center that we practice the White Tara on his behalf. And so we know Rinpoche's kindness for his disciples, and he himself actually always sees his disciples having all kinds of difficulties, and Rinpoche always tells his disciples you should practice Tara, and that is also because he himself knows that Tara does have the power to relieve our suffering, to help us clear away our obstacles. And that is why whenever people have problems, when they come to Rinpoche, he tells them, you need to practice Tara. So it is also very like a special wish for Garchen Rinpoche. He always inspires his own students to practice White Tara. And so that for this reason also, In Singapore, for example, we are doing a regular practice of Tara at our center, because it was Gyatso Rinpoche's wish that his centers really practice white Tara, and because this is very important to Rinpoche, we follow his instructions and we keep up with like regular Tara practice at the center. And then also in 2008 we have started a mantra counter on our webpage, our centers Singapore, and at the Jiga Thupten Darjeeling webpage. Mantra counter to 100,000 million, right?
Yeah.
To accumulate 100,000. The goal is to accumulate 100,000, what? No, 100 million white Tara mantras for the long life.
100 million.
100 million, no?
Yes.
So 100 million white Tara mantras for in dedication of Gyatso Rinpoche's long life. And so also you can, people from all over the place can go into the webpage and add their numbers to the mantra counter. So we are as an ongoing practice that is still going on. And so because it is very important to Rinpoche, and because it is a very powerful practice, that is why everywhere I also personally go, I encourage people to practice Tara. For example, I go sometimes to Europe, and even if it is not so many people, even if I just meet one person or 10 people, however many people I meet, I always encourage them at Rinpoche centers to establish this practice of white Tara, because this is really Rinpoche's great wish. And so this is also why now when I'm coming here, again, for this reason I've yesterday requested that we have a white Tara practice on behalf of Gyatso Rinpoche's long life. So wherever I go, I try to encourage the centers to do that. And since this is really Gyatso Rinpoche's wish, and also will benefit his long life. And not only that, then also it benefits our own difficulty in clearing away our own obstacles. So this is the reason why I have requested that we hold this white Tara practice today.
Then Jetsun Ruma the Siki Yamlin Chepayena Yang Tegayan Send the Jingi Parche and Setapa Tendri Yore. Then Jetsun Ruma the Shirap Lion, Teletin and Arans, Shirap and Jayore. Jetsun Ruma the Samba and Hinji Danyari, Teletin and Arans, Jula and Samba and Hinji and Jayore. Then Dormas and the Karesegurs, doors, Jetsun Rumas, and also doors in a Then I Jung in Sonajiak, Ju, the Donne, Tapa the Tamjin, Salang, Gugu Yusan, the U door lagur. Mas in a simply tampio, sort and rhythm, sort and reason much been draw Yona, then March Patavatini, March Malapaji Yonatini, Matic Palazeva Chimboyoro, the Tabatini, Jetsun Rumati, simply Tamjelatini. Market Palazeva Yupana, simply Tamilate of Zeva Yusantin, Dormas, the Jetsun Romadelen, Chimpa, Zewa, Nipas, Chizin, Nudins, Chimpa, simply Tamjeke, Leta Newman, and Reva Dunghart Jepa. Dunghartele, Job Dunghartele, Do, condition Dogo Yupa, that Tamjin Chimpa. Zewas in a simply Tamjela read this much, but Zeva Yupa. Chinse news and Teda Tamjik Dungale job taba. Data Vachitini, Jetsun Rumatella Yore, Telatin, Asoka Suginyan Sinaya. The data Pinto, Jachimbo, the Chongayores. Then the Jetsun Rumata, Yamni si in the chick, Nanato Jetsun Ruma Gomshina, Yapori, Nanato Tinana, Chuanana Shiba, Nayanato Jirum Yapositana, Yapori Jirum, Zorum, so Shina Yapori. Kazi Teda Tamchi Mashijang. Mahijang, Tambonga, la Samba Sancho, Sem the Dimbogone, simply Tamjiki cheat. Nedget to Romatinian chicken some. They think that in the same stage, the mine, say that in okay, same the Jetsun Romarana, then the Yamni Chepayena, then you go Pinto Jaja Topo Yores, then the co Yinjimichi Jirum Mashivena, Romanyamni si Malova, then the Yunkuyo man. So same that in the shame. Same Maga same Jula, somebody Hinji Jay and Wayana, that Jetsun Rumangus Chayon. The Jetsun Rumangus Chayon. Tell it in a snap chap some top of it. Then Naga same Tela Samba Hinji, hla kang drip hla drip thpa hla drip shiba drip thpa yores then the zo ko long ta then samba ni la to yore then nga ge ju la yana then jip su ma drip shi yores kaya non do ma res.
So we practice Tara. The quality of practicing Tara is that this practice Tara has the power to liberate us from various obstacles and hindrances. So she clears away obstacles and suffering, and then also she also is the embodiment of great love. She loves. She has some great love and great compassion for sentient beings, like a mother for her child, and so that is why it also increases love. We practice Tara, and then also she is an embodiment of wisdom. So when we practice Tara, also it will increase the quality of the wisdom mind in our own mind, and so the quality of love and wisdom, and then also the Tara has the qualities of an omniscient mind and has the power to protect us and has great compassion for sentient beings. So with the power of omniscience, Tara is able to see the karmas and the sufferings, the karmic appearances and so of all sentient beings, has a clear knowledge of the suffering of sentient beings and their related karmas and so forth, and clearly knows the minds of beings. And then with her great compassionate love, also Tara loves all beings equally, just like a mother loves her child, her only child. And then also she has the power to protect us. If we practice her single-pointedly, she has the power to grant us protection from our difficulties. And so also the term Tara itself, it means the great liberating mother, or Drolma in Tibetan. And so Drol is to liberate, and so she is the one who liberates us from falling into the lower realms. And she closes the gates to the lower realms and lifts us and helps us to attain enlightenment, opens the doors to the higher realms. And then she liberates from suffering and grants happiness. And then Ma here in Drol Ma, it means the mother. So she's like the mother of all beings, because her love for all beings is just like the love of a mother to a child. So she's the mother who liberates from suffering, from the lower realms. And so when we practice Tara, and according to the sadhana, it consists of the creation stages and the completion stages. That is the visualization and the completion stage. So if you're able to visualize, in this way and practice according to that, of course that is excellent. But even if you're not able to do an elaborate visualization according to the text, what is most important is the mind. So it comes down to the intention in the mind. So therefore, if you cultivate the good intention as you engage in this practice, and cultivate loving kindness and compassion for all sentient beings, and generate the wish to liberate beings from suffering as you engage in this practice, and then you continue as you practice to remain without distraction, even if the visualization, even if you don't know how to visualize the detailed elements in there. But if you're able to remain undistracted, also having first cultivated the motivation, then still certainly you will receive the benefits and the blessings of the practice. And so what it really comes down to, in essence, in this practice is the mind. So it is not so much the outer aspects of the practice, such as the visualizations and so forth, which is good if you can do it, but what is really most important is the motivation in the mind, and then also the single pointedness of the mind as you engage in the practice, so with being without distraction. And so whoever practices Tara in such a way, with this good intention and with a single pointed, undistracted mind, this practice really does have the power to clear away our obstacles, our hindrances, and release us from suffering, benefit self and others. So when you then receive the lung, when you listen to the reading transmission, now then cultivate the motivation, think that I am receiving this transmission, and then I will engage in the practice thereafter so that I can liberate all sentient beings from suffering and establish them all in a state of enlightenment.
Lama Jala Kusan, Namo Sanje Chuzogong, Jontima, Dando Janjosan Josimji, the one Bengani, Tata, the home, Om Subawa, Huda, Savada, Subawa, Huda, Han, Gino, the Tomando, the Sojon, Yen, Chanjumbo. No se bon la pende Jabare, Batangan, Sara, Nipamasaba to go Sojon to Besong, Bezara, Chara, Cha, Lion, Yogas of Naropa, the Jumden, the Majasic, and the Cubesans of Sanasanjuba. Dihyagia Yerando Dongo Dayuge, Sancho Chimo, Soyana, and Donhagunja, and you don't bang and Neon Mich. Pobranjego sent the engine Jumba, November, the engines and the Tamion to Tony Senior. Rani, Vienco Locas and the Science Children, Bebe, and the Chazon, you don't see on by changing the Dajichin and Joe, Bonnet, or home. To Tamika Long Trailer or me, Gonda Jirani, Jam or me, Gomdan Chin, Dancher. To Tamika Leon Tripe or men and Gomdra Wana Jinda Nimi, one could jet up chur. Zahong Bang, Abe Kinga, the Samaya Shere, on Beza. Gamba then be dibe alloking in the neve de Shata Badaza so Latana Mejibi, Hejibi Mono, the Pumbagon, the Madromean, La Samsara, the Jumdi de Matu, Koloka, Tevata, the In, Barangajusm, the Sangat. Zipje Gondon and Dipje Garo, Jinko, and the Daniels in the Dindon 200 and Chota John, Coloson and Machusum Lanya Sazi, and Sumaya, the Cole, the Cassim Montana. Chinka Jondrega Banza Baza, the Caseva, Ujele, Sepa Topji, Chur, Ombasuma, Tichere, so Bazar Basuma, Tichere, so Bezara so Caridate. Beza Zinda, so Dari to Dari Mama, I Jana Pay Putango, so he did so. Don't let Gina do Doman and do young at the Jum de Nema, but then I make a Jatinji, Tigina, got 7 to German Rapuzo, but Shan, Tana, the Dunbar with the Jum de Matsimbe Zimba. Shaji Jindo Science, you need about the Darinji, Joe, Banes, or 2 down to Mena Goda Jena, but Jum my Javas in the city, the Gina and the Chito Jikunish, on Ayatare Sabar, Ayatare Sabar. Ayatare Sapara Agam Padza so Ayatare Bezar Samaya Vajra Samayanja Padza so Joyi Janchubeze, Sanasa, take on a tree as a metop. My major Hazer and the Yonanga Jazid, the Lama Banjan Kuzang and Chudijans on Pasojo. On Ayatare Sama, on Ayatare Sa, on Ayatare Sapara, Agapa then be deep, alloking it in it. Shata Padas, so Yelling Koya, Hanet of the Mazin, the doubles of the Mazungu. Dalilom de Chumdin de Mahamba Rana Mendala Panzamaga, some of the Sabarana, some Sayibu Sujan method of running in your day, but the Sanji in the middle. Dogo Namda Jendo Jubra Jetsun Pamando Mother Yuba Javas Tamjala Kune Dama Sanzo Method of the Mala the Bongo and Pamson Tomam and the Magajan. Sending one of the Batam Java and Soja, Chujon the Chujon. Coaches in Madamanam, the Yadon, Tamjas and Junior, Dimba Bart the Dodge. Om Subhava Shuddha Savadame Subhava Shuddha Rinjila Dodoma Rinchin Norba Tomanduyun Pa Maram Balopam Rinchin to Tomanduyun Pamambalo Pamjur Jenze Solon Jeze Mambanda Malasan Sandanya Brahma Jinjalandroma Om Jetsun Pamando Malasan, Sandanya Brahmajanjalon, Majes, Chiajaga, Masando, Gundogan, Karmatonda Supanam Jera, the Sevo, Rampamas, Sanjay, Pimasan, and number of the Tiny Jumama Bazo, the Jesuit, the Masada, Hongi, and do that was an argument, by Hajan, the Lemon Masanjamet. Lona, the one Jumutan, and Nujitun, the Masanda, the Pidgey Ponder, and Asian, and the Shimba Masanda, but Digibon, nobody but the Malis or Jungology around on the Masana, Jimmy Gentleman, some society was on Tamil Guban in Mantonia upon another Southern Jimmy Tapperkin Doran, the Masamza Carpetama met and Bountaman, Jabon and your Masans saying on a second to younger about the Naga Masan, the Magaman and the Junior Mason and the Junior Masan guy. Jadarangami Jango Bound, Dominus Sunday, the Bono Son, Ramzan and Business Union Masana, the number of Madame Bay, Toma Basamasana, to Japan, Jetamono, to Daman, Basamasan, the Beijing Bot. Haranya direction of Masan and do not renew the job, but the San Savalani. Niekyo zai je Tun she de Trupsor Chimjor je Rokunji Dorchuji Sanje Shon Pame Toka Tampan Kong Tutum de Separate Jebarjo Umtari Tudare Ture Mama Ayan Jana Punya Patangor So Hide Na Jiwa Mebe Chimian and Lama Roma, you desim chicken, the Matan Jabakon, the Ranchuga, Bama Yesan, and the Java Manko, Chunian, the Juna Manjibetani, Tumdang, Bolayan, and Tobacco, and Tona Compam, Sen of the Nimian. Cheddar said Jambana, two Niminam, the Yandadun, and we should do Mobile and Tujan, continue them, Tadon Magaza, Yamzo Sanje, Jab, so Aria Taresa, Paravar, Agabaden Bibiba, Ginde Nevete, and Ginde Nevete, Sabard so Manju Yonson. Very carried.
Latang
Latang Jibi Malo, Pombagona, Dromayana, Samsara, Dromayana, Zondoya, that is out some money, Bala, Aras, the Dinabadin, Meba, Sawas, the Meba in the South, Masan, Gron, Banga, Ayatariman, Zayatarbaya, Bama, Samaya, Sato, and Manju, Samata, the Dalom, Dalom, Mumba, Wangene, Nombagan, Zundan, but so rock. O ayasa damba sovare om denne dindan hin ko wazi nemetsen cholmez am strat dit chije simjin 동공 더 지선 통방 으로 산제 여대견의 자랑야 손반제도 선배자 잠진제 모완제도 라문지면 라마라에 딱히 쇼다가 되는 좀 기ven 존여 춘저 오케이 clear or not clear?
Good job.
Okay, now we practice, okay? One time Tibet, one part, one time Tibet, then English again. Then second part Tibet, and again English, okay? Namo Sanje Chu Tsokung Chondema Danro Jam Chu Chancho Semje Do Namo Sanje Chu Tsokung Chandema Danro Jam Chu Chancho Semje Do.
Namo, in the transcendent conquerors, embodiment of all the Buddhas, Dharma, and Sangha, wayfaring beings and I take refuge and generate the mind of awakening.
Om Am Bengane Tadra Da Hong Pei Om Soba Wa Shuddha Sarva Dharma Soba Wa Shuddha Ren Chen De Torman De Yon Chen Choi John Ne Yen Chan Jong Borang okay.
English?
English, yes.
In a jeweled vessel appears the Dormam, like cumulus clouds of desirables. I turn it over to you, guardians of the directions, domestic and local gods and harmful spirits who are karmic creditors. Abandoning harmful intent, it is fitting that you accomplish being's benefit and ease.
Ranyam Pama Sarva Tokava Chojun Rambasam Gotsun Mecha Bajar Pesakaicha.
I manifest as the exalted lady. The radiance from my heart shines forth throughout the 10 directions, becoming an invincible protection sphere. Raksha, Raksha, Raksha.
Layang Waka Chobje Shendun Che Chon Den Den Majar Se Chin Jan Che Kwe Chan Sa Shena San Jumber Desha Ge Waya Ran Rodonka Ta Yo Ke Kon Chan Cho Chen Bon Ho So Yen Ran Ton Ro Kon De Din Shen Dong A Kon Da Re Mi Ta Nyong Sho Dong Be Ngang La Ne Yer Wong Min Shen Po Zhang Jin Ko Zhen Da Ren Qian Jie Qiong Ba E Ba Nor Ben Zhen Wa De Te Ye Ren Qian Ban Mi De Tam Ye Wong Zhi Tong Ye Che Yong Jie Ran Ye Ye Jian Ko Lo Ka San Zi Cha Yin Cho Jin Yong Be Be Kam Xia Zong Zhe Zhong Cin Be Wong An Bar Ren Qin Jin Jian Dang Ye Jin An Ye Zhe Ba Ne San On Wa Hong To Dang Ye Ka Le Wong Che Be Om Mi Ne Ning Om Zha Wan La Jie Jian Zhan Ye Mi Wan Go Jie Dai Zhe.
Page 1, Is it? No. Again, a white light radiates to the Buddha fields of the 10 directions and becomes an invitation to the transcendent conquerors, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. With reverence I prostrate and make outer, inner, and secret offerings. I confess misdeeds and rejoice in virtue. I exhort the Buddhas to act for the welfare of beings and to remain always. I dedicate all virtue for great awakening. The field of accumulation dissolves into me. May all wayfaring beings have ease, freedom from all ill-being, and impartial equanimity. From the state of emptiness appears the sacred place, the Ram of Akarnishta. Therein is an immeasurable ornamented palace and a precious woodland with trees adorned by strands of jewels and utpalas. In the center is an excellent jewel throne with lotus and moon, in the center of which stands a Dham syllable. Light radiates therefrom, accomplishing the two benefits. Through the transformation of the Dham, I appear as the beautiful, brilliant, white wish-granting chakra. My right hand is in the gesture of supreme generosity. The left holds a white lotus. Both legs are in lotus posture. I am endowed with the major and minor marks and radiate rainbow-colored lights. I am adorned by the 8 jeweled ornaments and the 5 silken garments. At my crown is Amitabha, and in my 3 places the syllables Om Ah Hung. From a white Dham syllable in the center of my heart, light radiates, inviting the wisdom being, resembling myself, together with the empowerment deities from the Ram of Akarnishta. They are inseparably absorbed. Thus empowerment is bestowed, and I am marked with the seal of the Lord of the family.
Hong Pan Ho Abe Kinga de Samaya Shiri Ye Hong Om Beza Argan Pade Bube Dube Aloken Gende Neved Sharda Bardaza So La dan la me je ben je sha je be mo le do de pa ba con le dron ze ma dron ma yan la chan tar dum.
With the very crowns, gods and demigods pay homage at your lotus feet. Homage and praise to Mother Tara, Lady who liberates from every impoverishment.
Chom den de ma tu ko lo ka te wa tam tam ye yong on ha pa rang a zhe tan yin dan zhen ma chur. I Yen Korn Dun Nen Ka Ujang Korn De Tin Yo Chenu Dun Dan Ze Wang Ren Zin Cho To Jo Ko Lo Che Ren Me Chu Sun La Yang Sarje ye yon che mar yen da ye ko le wa za kar te man ten ja che ja zhong che le ma chen ro che pan san e bar sar de ka che wa Page
2. In the heart center of the transcendent conquerors is a white wheel. At its hub is a Dham with Om and Ah syllables on the right and left. The Dham is surrounded by my name or the names for those for whom I am practicing and by the longevity mantra. In the wheel's 8 spokes are the 8 white syllables, beginning with the Dham in front and revolving clockwise. Their light gathers and absorbs the splendor and power of everything animate and inanimate in samsara and nirvana. Thus I attain the supreme state of an awareness holder with mastery of life. In the 3 successive outer rings of the wheel are vowels circle clockwise, the consonants circle anti-clockwise, and the Yedharma syllables circle clockwise in the outermost ring. As they revolve, rays of white, yellow, red, blue, green, and violet light radiate, filling the body and emanating outward, creating concentric spheres of light. In the intermediate spaces between each sphere are newly blossomed utpalas, whose brilliance gives rise to vitality, glory, strength, and the 4 activities.
Om Basmati Shiriya Soha. 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 Om Ambedza Jindraya Soha. Om Bedza Jindraya Soha. Om Bedza Jindraya Soha. Om Bedza Ajindraya Soha. Om Bedza Ajindraya Soha. Om Bedza Ajindraya Soha. Om Bedza Ajindraya Soha. Om Tare Tu Re Mama Yin Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kor So Om Tare Tu Re Mama Yin Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kor So Om Tare Dure Mama Yen Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kura So Om Tare Dure Mama Yen Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kura So Om Tare Dure Mama Yen Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kura So Om Tare Dure Mama Yen Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kura So Om Tare Dure Mama Yen Jana Ye Bchen Kura So Om Tare Dure Mama Yen Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kura So Om Tare Dure Mama Yen Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kura So Om Tare Dure Mama Yen Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kura So Om Tare Dure Mama Yen Jana Pon Ye Bchen Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So Om Tare Ture Mama Ayen Jana Ponye Patren Kura So
Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Om Dare Tu Re Mama Ayun Jana Ponye Bachan Garan So Ton le ren chen de ton man he ton yang den chum den de man ba par den la me ke chen jar den che ten de jen dan ro kon se ban zo Jom den ma Tambo de ma tongo srem
Appearing in a true vessel and risen from emptiness, the dormant doubt of the five desirables is offered to the transcendent conquerors. Thus the lives of the glorious Guru and the victor's teachings flourish, and as a result, the vitality of patrons and all wayfaring beings is increased.
Dun je men ram pu so gu bei shen ta na do we dan bar we ten chom den de man chen be yen ba yar je chan dong cha ye cha jin ze yong be bar tar da ren chen jin jo ba ne son o wa hong to dan ye ka le yo men gom zha jian zhan nie men ten bar jo Om Jom Den De Man Jar Va Se Tan Che Me Che De To Jin Zhan Na Sim Jin Tu Jie Gong Lai She Om Arya Tare Vajar Samaya Satzalin.
In English on page 3. The mandala. The mandala before me is a perfectly arrayed Buddha field, lovely to behold. Upon a brilliant Uttara flower in its center is the transcendent conqueress, whose major and minor marks blaze with splendor. She has one face and 7 eyes. Her right hand is in the gesture of generosity. The left holds an Utpala. She is adorned with silken garments and jewels. At her crown is Amitabha, and in the 3 places the syllables Om Ah Om. From the down in the center of her heart, light radiates. Thus, the wisdom being, resembling herself, is invited from Akarnishta and is inseparably absorbed. When I invite you with the force of undivided faith, transcendent conquerors, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, please come regarding me with great love and compassion. Om Arya Tara Samaya.
Om Ye Zhen Qu Be Zi Chana Sang Te Ko Na Ye Yun Xia Si Me Do Be Mar Me Che Cha Xia Zi Ro De Yo Na Nga Jar Si Da Lama Pam Jur Kong Zan Ke Jun Zhan Jiang Cun Pan Cun Chu. English.
Real and visualized offering substances, outer, inner, secret, and suchness, the 5 types of desirables, water for drink and ablution, flowers, incense, oil lamps, fragrant water, food, and music, the royal attributes, the auspicious emblems, the wealth and glory of gods and men. All these I offer as oceans of Samathabhadra's offering clouds to the noble assembly.
Om Arya Tare Saparavara Argam Padin Bube Dub Alokin Gende Nevete Chata Saradaba Ra Len Ya Len Chen Kor Rö Pa Sha Da Ra San Gen De Sapar She Par Da Za So Ha Rö Ra Len Ya Len Chen Kor Yo Che Dong Sen Me Jie Nan Nan Jien Da Be Zong Dang Ma Zong E Bo Kong Da Le Lang De Chong Den De Man Be Rana Men Zha La Bun Za Men Ga Sa Men Zha Song Ge La A Hong.
Mentally appropriating Mount Meru, the 4 continents and subcontinents with the enclosure, the divine abodes, the enduring 3,000 worlds, adorned by Vairochanam, and all things owned and not owned. I offer them to the transcendent conquerors. Ratna Mandala Puja Megala Ahum.
Sa Ye Bu Je Sui Xian Me Do Cha Re Ra Len Ye Nye De Jian Ban De San Je Xian La Me De Pur Wa Ye Ro Gong Nan Da Xian De Ju Ba Re Xiong.
Anointed with fragrant water and strewn with flowers, this vast ground is adorned by Mount Meru, the 4 continents, sun and moon. Through my regarding it as a Buddha field and offering it, may all wayfaring beings enjoy the pure realm.
Jetsun Milarepa Choju Tu Sun Yomban Ye Jarwa Se Je Tam Je La Kone Tam We Chan Ca Lo Me Do Do Be Mar Me Che Sha Ze Ro No La So Ba Ngun Je Ye Je Zhen Nen Ba Pa Me So Je Ye Se So To Ma Me Ne Ta Ta Pa Me Ge Je Dan Can Me Nga Se Ne Nyo Mo Wan Jur Be De Ba Tam Je Sha Bar Je Mian Do Do Nyan Ngon Te Sem So Su Je Wo La So Ba Tu Sun Ge Wa Je Za Ba So Na La Ne Da Ye Ran Sem Jin Nam Je Sam Ba Ta Lo Ye Che Ra Che Da Wa Che Chung Tu Mon Te Ba Ye Chu Jang Ko Lo Kor De So Kor Wa Je Zi Ma Dong Yang E Men Da Tu Je Ye Dong Har Jam So Sen Wa Ye Sem Jin Na La Zi Se So Dhargye So Nan Che Za Ba Tam Je Chan Cho Je Je Ne Ren Bo Me Ton Ro Wa Ye Ren Bo Par De Da Je Je
To noble lady Aryatara and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who abide in the 10 directions and 3 times, I pay homage with complete sincerity, manifesting real and visualized flowers, incense, oil lamps, fragrance, food, music, and so forth. I make offerings. Please accept them, assembly of the exalted lady. I confess the 10 non-virtues, the 5 acts without interval, and all the harmful deeds of the mind controlled by delusion from beginningless time until now. I rejoice in the merit of whatever virtue has been accumulated in the 3 times, by the heroes, self-made victors, bodhisattvas, ordinary beings, and the like, according to the interests and diverse capacities of sentient ones. Please turn the wheel of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles. Until samsara becomes void, please do not pass into nirvana, but regard with compassion sentient ones swallowed up in the ocean of suffering. As all the merit I have accumulated is the cause of awakening, may I become before long a magnificent guide of wayfaring beings.
Om Bengane Taja Da Hong Pei Om Subawa Shuda Sawa Dharma Suba Shuda Ho Rinche Nuda Dorman Duyunche Pamar Bolo Pam Jur Jemze So
In the jeweled vessel is the Dharma, the refined essence of nectar. I offer it to the exalted lady. Please cause wealth and glory to increase.
Onje zama pama joma la chamzalo chamza joma nima par mo jine ge jalo danjarma jeda sumgun chuje shab je kesar chewalene choma chamza dunga dawa konda kangwa jane gizbayema karma tongchan tsuba nam che rabdu che vuram baharma Chanza senga chene chen je bim sane nambar jima jimba zundru kato shewa zuba samdin juye nyema chanza de yin sheba zo doran taye namba jawa juma malu paror chimbe do be jaru se jen yin de dema Chamsar do dara hong ye gen do dan cho dan nam ka kama jik den dum bo shab je ne de lu ba me bar go bar ne ma Chamsar jen jen me la tsam ba long la na zo wang sun chu ma Chomba ro lan che zan nam dan nu jin so jen du ne de ma Chansa je je ben ben je pa ru jun ko rab de joma ye gan yun jang kun nu yan de men bar ban zin de dem Chansa de de ye pa chen mo de je ba wo nam ban joma Chansa je ma rao tam je ma le so ma Chamsara koncho samson cha ja sormo toka nambar jema malen kunje golo jembe range uje sonan chum Chamsara be uje zan be ma ye bara ye dudara ye dudan jikden wandan zema Chansa sa ye jung so na tam jin go ba ne ba nye ma chon ye yo ye ge hong ke po ba tam jin na bar chu ma Chansa we jin jin ba tam je shin dan bar ma Rab chuna ba me le ta ba re shin de won zema Chansa karban tama me da barban chingwa wuna ne ma ye jang yung kong kong ne ko ga jaya bon ne nambar joma Chansa sa yin la cha ke ya jen yap jen de ma Chonyur jinze ye ge hong ke re ba dun bon na ne gem Chansa de ma ge ma she ma nyang de ye juen ye ma so ha om dan ye den ba de ba chen bon jom Chansa kon kora ga ve ja ye lu ne rab den ge ma ye che ba nga ne ko be ri ba hon ne jun ma nye ma Chansa tere shan da be hong ge nam be nye ma ra men da ra dan be jen je den son na yo wa nye ma Chansa son na nya be re da dan je chana na ma ni be ba ye ge ton na ma le ba ne se Chansa la ye sona jar bo la damam je te ma kone ko ja ga je zu dam lang ba se ma Chansa ni ma da wa jin be jin ye bo la ora sa ma hara ni je da ra ye shin de ra bo ne Chamsa denye son la ku be shivin te da yang da de ma don da ro lan chon yin cho na jom ba de ren ram chon ye ma sa ve nga je ku ban de dan chan tsar wa lan ye she zai chi
Go back to page 6. Homage to you, Tara, the swift heroine, whose eyes are than flash of lightning, whose waterborne face arises from the blooming lotus of Avalokiteshvara, protector of the three worlds. Homage to you, Tara, whose face is like 100 full autumn moons gathered together, blazing with the expanding light of 1,000 stars assembled. Homage to you, Tara, born from a golden blue lotus, whose hands are beautifully adorned with lotus flowers. You who are the embodiment of giving, joyous effort, asceticism, pacification, patience, concentration, and all objects of practice. Homage to you, Tara, the crown pinnacle of those thus gone, whose deeds overcome infinite evils, who has attained transcendent perfections without exception, and upon whom the sons of the victorious ones rely. Homage to you, Tara, who with the letters to Tara and Pum fill the realms of desire, directions in space, whose feet tremble on the 7 worlds, and who are able to draw all beings to you. Homage to you, Tara, venerated by Indra, Agni, Brahma, Vayu, and Ishvara, and praised by the assembly of spirits, raised corpses, Gandharvas, and all yakshas. Homage to you, Tara, whose tread and pet destroy entirely the magical wheels of others. With your right leg bent and left outstretched and pressing, you burn intensely within a whirl of fire. Homage to you, Tara, the great fearful one, whose letter Turan destroys the mighty demons completely, who with a wrathful expression on your water-borne face, slay all enemies without an exception. Homage to you, Tara, whose fingers adorn your heart with the gesture of the sublime precious free, adorned with the wheels striking all directions without exception, with the totality of your own rays of light. Homage to you, Tara, whose radiant crown ornament, joyful and magnificent, extends a garland of light, and who by your laughter of Tara conquer the demons and all of the worlds. Homage to you, Tara, who are able to invoke the entire assembly of local protectors, whose wrathful expression fiercely shakes, rescuing the impoverished through the latter home. Homage to you, Tara, whose crown is adorned with a crescent moon, wearing ornaments exceedingly bright. From your hair knot, the Buddha Amitabha radiates eternally with great beams of light. Homage to you, Tara, who dwell within a blazing garland that resembles the fire at the end of this world age. Surrounded by joy, you sit with your right leg extended and left withdrawn, completely destroying all the masses of enemies. Homage to you, Tara, with hand on the ground by your side, pressing your heel and stamping your foot on the earth. With a wrathful glance from your eyes, you subdue all 7 levels through the syllable home. Homage to you, Tara, O happy, virtuous, and peaceful one, the very object of practice, past beyond sorrow. You are perfectly endowed with Soha and Om, overcoming completely all the great evils. Homage to you, Tara, surrounded by the joyous ones. You completely subdue the bodies of all enemies. Your speech is adorned with 10 syllables, and you rescue all through the knowledge ladder home. Homage to you, Tara, stamping your feet and proclaiming Tura. Your seed syllable itself is the aspect of whom causes Meru, Mandara, and the Vidya mountains, and all the 3 worlds to tremble and shake. Homage to you, Tara, who hold in your hand the hair-marked moon like the celestial ocean. By uttering Tara twice in the letter Prat, you dispel all poisons with an exception. Homage to you, Tara, upon whom the kings of the assembled gods, the gods themselves, and all Kinnaras rely, whose magnificent armor gives joy to all, you who dispel all disputes and bad dreams. Homage to you, Tara, whose 2 eyes, the sun and moon, radiate an excellent illuminating light. By uttering Tara twice into Tara, you dispel all violent epidemic disease. Homage to you, Tara, adorned by the 3 suchnesses, perfectly endowed with the power of serenity. You who destroy the host of evil spirits, raise corpses and yakshas. O Tura, most excellent and sublime, thus concludes this praise of the root mantra and the offering of the 21 homages.
Pandur tuje dandur drim nyen jang so nyen zo de ge gong yen ye chen mum tun shen de zhi su chen jur je Ro Gong Jie Zhi Qu Yin San Jie Xiu.
Aryataram, through your compassion, the two obscurations of wayfaring beings and myself are cleansed, and the two accumulations are perfected. In all lifetimes, the 8 or 16 perils discord is pacified, and practice, merit, spiritual teachings, and wealth increase. May all wayfarers be freed from danger and attain awakening like yours.
Pa me to kar tam kar han chen ko hon che tun ye tse ba je ba jo.
In the heart of the exalted lady is a white thumb surrounded by the mantra garland. It radiates light that accomplishes the two objectives and enriches vitality and glory.
Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin jana bon ye butchen guru soha. Om tare tu re mama ayin Bujengura soha om tare du re mama hayen jana bonye bujengura soha om tare du re mama hayen jana bonye bujengura soha om tare du re mama hayen jana bonye bujengura soha Om tare tu re mama haye jana bunye pachengora so. Om tare tu re mama haye jana bunye pachengora so. Om tare tu re mama haye jana bunye pachengora so. Om tare tu re mama haye jana bunye pachengora so. Om tare tu re mama hayen jana bunye pachengora so. Om tare tu re mama hayen jana bunye pachengora so. Om tare tu re mama hayen jana bunye pachengora so. Om tare tu re mama hayen jana bunye pachengora Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara sowa. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara sowa. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara sowa. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara sowa. Om tare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om tare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om tare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om tare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om tare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om dare tu re mama ayen jana bunye pachengara so. Om Dare Dure Mama Yen Jan Habun Ye Butchen Garaso. Om Dare Dure Mama Yen Jan Habun Ye Butchen Garaso. Om Dare Dure Mama Yen Jan Habun Ye Butchen Garaso. Om Dare Dure Mama Yen Jan Habun Ye Butchen Garaso. Om Dare Dure Mama Yen Jan Habun Ye Butchen Garaso. Om Dare Dure Mama Ayen Jana Bunye Butchen Garaso. Om Dare Dure Mama Ayen Jana Bunye Butchen Garaso. Ma che wa me pe che yen na yan jeb zan la mo dor ma yo te sem jen kon la de ma dan je ba kon le cham de so ran chu ge yen ba ma xian ba sen yo mo wan de chur ba ye man ku wan chan be sem jian la yon la mo chu jia cham du so ju nian ne ju la ma jian ba ta nie ce ge jian zhan he zhe tang yin be le ba la yon yang da ge la so sen ya wo na dan ge sen ton ne gong ba me jian ba jia wang yin be yin wa la yon zhen be la me cham du so sen ram zong nie me ye xie la nie sen zhen be pai cha che che dar jie jiang jian wan na to nie me jie la me cham du so yang da ge tong la ne jie chang jun zhe jie dong zhe ma xie bei xie zhe dong la mong ba la yang gen jian jie la me jia de so no nam jie de dan yen mian jie ta dong lo me kan za la yang zo san jie jie jia de so.
9. Exalted Goddess Madataram, you dwell within the mother, the unborn sphere of phenomena, giver of ease to all sentient ones. Please protect me from every peril. Mother Goddess, please protect sentient ones who wander in cyclic existence. My mothers whose minds have fallen under this way of afflictions and do not recognize that they themselves are Dharmakaya. Authentic Mother Goddess, please protect those whose minds Dharma has not sincerely arisen, those who, following after mere expressions, have been deceived by base doctrines. Mindful Mother Goddess, please protect those distracted by evil activities, those who, having seen the natural mind, so difficult to comprehend, do not habituate it. Goddess of non-dual mind, please protect those who, no matter what they do, are bound by the mental imprints of dualistic grasping at the mind that is self-arisen, non-dualism. Omniscient Mother Goddess, please protect those ignorant of the meaning of knowable things, those who, though having dwelt in the true meaning, are not aware of the dependent relations of cause and effect. Perfect Mother Buddha, please protect those beings, disciples who still do not see that all things endowed with the attribute of unelaborated space are inseparable therefrom.
Om Arya Tare Saparavar Argam Paden Pube Dube Aloking.
어때? 그래. 다들 뭐 뭐만 소개 좋다. 되게 서로도 뭐 뭐란도 산도 dedication. 시합된 다 동사서. 또 동에는 렌드. 다 주주 조사다.
10, 11.
뭐 뭐나 집어 소개.
So 9, 10, 11, and then you know, and then so 9, 10, 11, and 16. Dorzin Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma of Gampopa, Hamudra, and Lord Drikung. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue may I achieve omniscience, by defeating all enemies' confusion. May all travel on the ways of birth, old age, sickness, and death, across the ocean of samsara. Bodhisattva, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri the warrior realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drikung Ratnashri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, root, and lineage lamas, divine assembly of idams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. By the power of this vast fruit of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May thoughts of fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened with loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta. And through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused or wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such, and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I in any case gain the supreme attainment of mahamudra at the time of death or in the Bharata. And 16. Emma Ho. In the center is the marvelous Buddha, Amitabha of boundless light. On the right side is the Lord of great compassion, and on the left is Vajrapani, the Lord of powerful means. All are surrounded by limitless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Immeasurable peace and happiness is the blissful pure land of Diligence. When I and all beings pass from samsara, may we be born there without taking samsaric rebirth. May I have the blessing of meeting Amitabha face to face. By the power and blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, may we attain this aspiration without hindrance. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Bodhisattva, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn may it arise, where it is born may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.
Om Mani Padme Hum Zhi. Om Mani Padme Hum Zhi. Om Mani Padme Hum Zhi. Om Mani Tamje de salangu bhajo. Gende nevet shata pardaza sova ladan la min jubin che sha jembe mola do te pomba gon le jonze ma dorma yon la chansa du.
Gods and demigods pay homage at the lotus feet. Homage and praise to Mother Tara, Lady who liberates from every impoverishment.
Om Arya Tare Samaya Mani Balaya Arya Tare Dino Bante Tate Jome Bhava Sudkayo me bhava, subkayo me bhava, anurado me bhava, sarva siddhi me bhayansa, sarva karma siddha me ziddhan shriya, guru hom ha 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 ho bhangaven. Arya Tare Mamemanza Arya Tare Baha Mahasamaya Sato Om Arya Tare Samaya Manibalaya Arya Tare Dino Bante Chachujo Me Bhava Sudkayo me bhava, sudkayo me bhava, anurado me bhava, sarva siddhi me bhayansa, sarva karma siddha me ziddhan shriya, guru hom ha 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 bhangaven. Arya Tare Mamemanza Arya Baha Mahasamaya Sato Om Arya Tare Samaya Manibalaya Arya Tare Dino Bante Chachujo me bhava Sudkayo me bhava Subkayo me bhava Anurakdo me bhava sawa siddhi me bhayansa sawa karma sudan me tsudan shuriya kuro hong ha ho bangave ayatare mamemansa ayatare baha maha samaya sadhu manju yonsu matsanda dalo mombe wangene Omba kanjir zonzola ngudra tamba tsuware.
As you have forgiven whatever faults have occurred due to deficiency, imperfection, and my deluded mind, it is fitting that true accomplishments be conferred.
Om de ne ten tan len je de korwa se de yon ne chan ne me tse tan wam jo so cho na le ba zar du so.
Although you have dwelt here together with this representation, cyclic existence, please properly bestow long life, free from disease, a wealth of power, and a supreme city.
Om ka. Shiksor dere shiksor. Erin dumi gor dere shiksor. Dere shiksor dere da. Ha chiki chore. Shiksor shiksor. Om karere kere. Ah. Om chi je sem jian dong gong ze je sen ten ben zhe zor san jie yer de xian ne jiang yan zhong ban ze de so be zan me Dan dun yi xie ba ran yin yin se xie tam ce ba ran lan dun ba ju.
You who accomplish all welfare for beings, please bestow appropriate attainments. So you depart to the sphere of the Buddhas, please appear here again. Vajra. The wisdom being before me spontaneously departs into space. The commitment being dissolves into herself.
Jam tsen tsen mo wan jar ta la mon che ben zhen ye la ma la ye zai xi xiao da ge nian zhen che ba ye Given
like a wish-fulfilling jewel, you bestow attainments for gods and humans worship of you. May the auspicious blessing of the gurus and deities be present. By the virtue of my approach, accomplishment, and worship, may wayfaring beings swiftly realize you.
Jetsun chom den de ma tu je jen da dan ta ye sem jen tam je che si yun je yin zong nian nyo zo de zo bu san je to baran ze de so te ma to je ce ra kun de yang La dan la ye de wan cho te ne tam jin chen ba zhe ba jin ba la par che dong ge re tam ne so te min che war che ba na so da me lang en dan che ma en ba da Gipa Jeso Nyewan Tsewana Nyudu Sheshen Mi Panze Doso Jiten Jin Panjen Panjen Paye Chanje De Lampu Sun Tsobana Rayen Jebe Nama Leba Bemi Lun Jandra Panze Doso Zhela Zun Shen Tam Chu Yu Wa Tang Da Du Jin De Xian Chu Tong Wa Tang Tong Do Chang Jun Rinpoche Yang Ngu Da Tam Pri Shen Je Pan Zu Jia Rui Jun Ko San Shen Ga Wa De Bi Mo Dang Ba Shen Den Zi Le Che Nang Wan Ta Ye Jia Rui Ngun San De Long Din Ba Yang Da Ke Tir Do Xiao Dhargye Tsera Konde Dribla Tu Sun Sanje Kunjin Chen Le Ma Ngo Jiang Xer Je Chang Nian Nyur Ye Ma Yim Jir Ba Nam Bi Zha Xi Xiao Jiang Yun Zhou Ma Qi Ge Jin Zha Dang Ko Dang Ge Ce Ce Dang Xin Kang Dang Qi Jin Cin Qiu Zang Bo Qian Zha Wa Dian Zha Kong Na Da Son Ju Wa Xiu Ku La Du Jin So Wa Da Ben De Da So Kang De Ne Be Sa So Sen Ne Dan Wen Pong Tab Zui Xie Wa Tang Chu Dan Zha Xian Po Wan Zi De So Ge Ye Jun Ban Cin Dan Bi Zi Den Song Ge Jun Ban Ka La Ben Ge Yang Tu Jue Jun Ban Xi Zan Ta Da Zi Zha Xi Ban Ba Ma Yi Zha Xi Xiong
11. Transcendent, endowed, victorious lady, compassionate one, when the two obscurations of all infinite sentient ones and myself have been cleansed, and the two accumulations have been swiftly completed, please cause us to attain complete Buddhahood in all lifetimes until that is achieved. Having attained God's and human supreme happiness, let omniscience be accomplished. Let hindrances, evil and obstructing spirits, epidemics, illness, and so forth, and the various conditions for untimely death, bad dreams, ill omens, the 8 perils, and all harm be swiftly pacified and removed. Let all the objectives to be developed and increased without exception, the perfectly complete, auspicious, good fortune of this world and beyond, be spontaneously and effortlessly achieved. May I be diligent in practice, and may the true Dharma flourish. Continually practicing you, let me see your sublime face. Let the ultimate nature of emptiness be realized, and let precious bodhicitta develop and increase like the waxing moon. When I have taken birth from an excellent and most beautiful lotus, in that fine and delightful mandala of the victorious ones, may the victor Amitabha directly give this prophecy, and may I perfectly realize it. Goddess who I have practiced in all my lifetimes, lady who engages in the activity of all the 3 times Buddhas, blue-green in color with 1 face and 2 arms, you are the lady who swiftly pacifies. May the glory of the mother who holds the Upala be present. Royal Mother Tara, may others and I become exactly like you in your form, retinue, lifespan, pure land, and your noble major marks. By the power of praising and supplicating you, let illness, evil spirits, poverty, and strife be pacified, and let Dharma and auspiciousness increase for myself and others in whichever lands we abide. Having cast off physical flaws, you are endowed with the major and minor marks. Having cast off defects of speech, you have the melodic cry of the Indian cuckoo. Having cast off the faults of mind, you see the entirety of knowable things. May the glory of the lady who blazes with auspicious splendor be present.
Onje baje jo mala sansalo, Chai Bamba Mala Sansalo, Ninsong Gonga Mala Sansalo, Tore Lamde Mala Sansalo, Tadu Chija Tombanze, Tadon Tuji Jabdu So.
Homage to she who protects from the 8 perils. Homage to she who blazes with auspicious splendor. Homage to she who blocks the door to evil destinies. Homage to she who guides in the path to the higher realms. You have continually accompanied me. Pray protect me evermore with compassion.
Kaye tu sanjarve mama chu sem jian kong la petar tse chima chu je tse ve dan zho zhen ni jiang 从你走的结观结结局，门同学的这所全教起，当今家接着来工作的，因病着动去当也没效。 Tam de lo me so ta kamundru.
Oh, Mama, of the 3 times victors, you whose great love for all sentient ones is like a mother's love for her child. Through your affection, the 2 obscurations and wayfarers and myself are cleansed, and the 2 accumulations are perfected. In all lifetimes, the 8 or 16 perils, discord is pacified, and practice, merit, spiritual teachings, and endowment increase. Being fully liberated from the iron shackles of self-grasping, may my altruistic intent and benefit to beings become inseparable from yours. Accomplish whatever petitions are made by disciples endowed with samaya.
Pabeyana Aryan Devashi Do Kam Chosan Garje Research Jeden Gombe Tose Chuden Ba Parden Garjen Kutse Kajarde